want to call the meeting for strategic planning to order. And Mr. McConnell, would you like to lead us in our prayer?
Do it. Thank you. Father in heaven, we sure thank you for that little rain that you graced us with the day before yesterday. And we'd appreciate a little bit more, kind of cool things off for us a little bit. But otherwise, you know, we tell you all the time, we're very thankful for all of the blessings that you have given to us. We ask that you continue to bless us, continue to look after us, and continue to guide us in the way that we need to go. As always, please look after our brothers and sisters in uniform. Bring them home safely and soon. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell.
You're welcome.
Roll call. Councilman Barringer is not here. He had a breakdown and he's working tonight. Our colleagues on the Board of Adjustments is not here. And Mr. Alan Krause is here to represent Planning and Zoning. Thank you, Mr. Allen. On our public comment period, anyone that wants to speak on any agenda item, just fill out a speaker card and you can speak on the given agenda item as they come up. And we will welcome that. This is more of an informal meeting than the regular council meetings. Next, number 4, update on economic development. Mr. Tommy Kurtz.
Good evening. We actually have a presentation that we've put together for the Strategic Planning Committee. If Ozzy, if you could show that. This will cover the last 3 months, covering what's going on in economic development by the Ascension Economic Development Corporation. Ozzy showed me how to use this last week, so let's see how good my memory is. Not bad, okay. From an operational standpoint, we've hired 2 new staff. That's Edie Michelle and Carol Swanson. All of our financial data has now been input in QuickBooks. We've also created a economic development foundation, which has actually raised $30,000 in private money so far, largely for the food incubator that I'll talk about in a second. So we're also going after and have commitments right now, verbal commitments, nothing in writing yet, for an additional $150,000 for the foundation. So we're trying to create a public-private partnership in economic development. We opened the Louisiana Edible Creation Center in May, which is the food incubator at the Lamar Dixon Center. We've held Go Zone seminars for the business community with the Department of Economic Development. And a week and a half ago, we were visited by the site selection consulting firm of McCallum Sweeney, Mark Sweeney, who was actually one of the site selection consultants involved in the Nissan plant in Mississippi. They are actually working for the Baton Rouge Chamber and doing an evaluation of the entire region for economic development, and actually came in to evaluate Ascension Parish, both the pros and cons on the parish, and we'll be giving recommendations back to ADC on what are the concerns and what are the opportunities for economic development in Ascension in mid-September. Marketing, I'd recommend that if you have not taken a look at our website, the ADC website, which is ascensiondc.com. It is an excellent website. We've been receiving a lot of comments from site selection consultants and also actually the general public at large. It provides information such as available buildings and sites in the parish, demographic information. You can go on there also if you, let's say you were a potential tenant in the food incubator, to go online and apply there. And then also all the news in projects. If you wanted to find all the projects that have been announced in Ascension Parish, they also are on the website. And then finally, we actually put together a list of all the local realtors and brokers in Ascension Parish. So anytime that we get a lead from whether it be a site selection consultant or a realtor, we have about 33 or 35 or so local realtors, and an RFP is sent to them. So we may be looking for 5, 10 acres or a 10,000 square foot building, and we are receiving buildings and sites from these realtors, local realtors on property that's available, and also building up our database, something that was never done before. We've also launched our business retention program. We actually have a calling program where we call on companies in the parish to find out what their concerns are, to educate them about the Go Zone legislation that is available to companies with the Katrina tax stimulus legislation, These are some of just the companies that we visited with in the last 2 months. And I won't go through all of them, but you can tell they're companies that have been here for some time. We also have a database that we purchased called Synchronous, which is a nationally recognized database that allows us to take the information from the companies, and of course it's all confidential information because some of these companies share with us their concerns or issues. Also, they tell us, too, if there's a possible expansion that is occurring. And we're able to quantify this information. So if one of the councilmen said, if Doug said, I want to know how many companies in my district are expanding and how many jobs are currently, we could pull that up, for example. So once again, this is a much even powerful tool than I'm used to, but it does provide us with an opportunity to quantify information and also make policy recommendations based on input from companies in the parish. The food incubator, as you all know, we signed a lease with SMG and the parish to create the first food incubator in Louisiana. This allows food entrepreneurs to basically, if they want to package their, let's say, étouffée or make pralines, this gives them a shared-use kitchen to package and then sell out in the general public, and could create the next John Folse or next Blue Runner beans that are obviously in Ascension Parish. We received a grant for $25,000 from the Baton Rouge Credit Bureau. We have bought furniture, equipment, such as a digital scale, can opener. We're also working, we have one caterer who is signed, major caterer that will be using the operation from August until December, and we've had about 10 different types of entrepreneurs or companies look at the facility, and we think we're close at signing with 2. But the idea, this is a tool to help create food companies in the parish. And there's some other things, too, that we've done. We have a sign up. We're also going to be exhibiting the center at the Louisiana Restaurant Association Food Expo in New Orleans. So we're trying to get the word out that there's a state-of-the-art 3-year-old kitchen available at Lamar Dixon for food entrepreneurs to utilize. And there's the actual facility there, and there's the sign and logo. Film industry, we've been, actually there's a couple updates even since this slide. We had 3 potential movie locations looking at Ascension Parish, including Dallas, the movie, looking at Lamar Dixon, Bonnie and Clyde, looking at Donaldsonville, and the Great Debaters in Donaldsonville. We actually had another lead come in just the end of last week, and then had another potential lead today. So anyway, so we've been busy, of course, as you all know, on our website. We've put together a video which actually documents the film industry here in the state and also in Ascension Parish, and actually provides potential sites for movie locations within Ascension Parish. These are some of the trips that we have taken. We've been at the National Petroleum Refinery Association show, Association of Film Commissioners, National Business Incubator Association, and then some of the future trips we plan to take include a trip to Houston to visit on some of the headquarters of firms located in the Baton Rouge region, including Ascension, Cornet, which is a major real estate association in Orlando, and then the American Film Market, which is a film show which will be participating with the Leucadia Group, which is the local regional local economic developers that have actively gone after the film industry. Announced projects, of course, as you all are familiar with SynFuel, which was announced about 2-3 weeks ago with the governor. This is the largest capital investment in Geismar. This will not be immediate. This is going to take time for the facility to get off the ground. We're looking at probably being in operation 3 to 4 years. We were just told of the project about a month ago. We've been working with LED, who basically told us they were working with a coal gasification plant, just failed to mention it was actually in Ascension Parish. But we had known it was looking at the Baton Rouge area. So this is a significant project. We'll be working on the ground now. Once the project has been announced, it's just starting for us in working on the workforce issue and working with permits both local and at the state level moving forward. And I think there's also some additional financing that they're putting together for the project. So once again, they're not moving dirt around tomorrow, but it's probably a good year and a half before actually dirt would be moved around after the permitting process. The Shaw Group, division of the Shaw Group, has announced a biofuels plant in Donaldsonville. The total project's about $1.5 billion. This is off of 405. We really didn't have much to do with that project. It was led by the Port of Baton Rouge, working with the Shaw Group. And then there's a project that we got a call about 3 weeks ago, and we had given a lead to a local realtor, but the old Plasticell building, you all remember that facility that closed at the end of last year. We've talked to the folks from 84 Lumber, and they're supposed to be making that into a distribution center. Don't know the job count, don't know the investment. We were over there just the other day, and they were actually removing equipment out of that facility. But we had provided the lead because it went to a sheriff's sale. It was in the sheriff's sale stage of the process, which is always a good. Usually get a good bargain at a sheriff's sale. So anyway, but like I said, this will be there's a rail spur there, and that was the attractive thing to 84 Lumber. These are some of the projects from the retention and attraction side. We've been working with Homeless House over the last 3 months with Go Zone legislation, also assisting on a potential payment in lieu of taxes arrangement for a bond issuance and a tax abatement for a $13 million planned bed and breakfast that will employ approximately 150 people. This will bring a high-end, basically clientele to the parish. They'll be able to also host 2 weddings and other corporate functions. So we see this as a very positive draw for the parish, and we've been working with the owner, Kevin Kelly, for about 3 months now. At the bottom are the business attraction prospects. We've had 7 prospect visits since the last 3 months. Working with a food processor looking at Donaldsonville, the industrial park. Working with a major retailer looking right outside of Gonzales. A biomass plant. We actually worked with a couple of these, actually, but this is the one we've been working the last 3 months. A major bulk tank storage facility. And as you can tell from the screen, it has jobs up there along with the estimated impact. There was a plastics company looking at Geismar site along Highway 30, but since then Ascension has been pulled out of the contention. Had to do with the price of land, which, of course, as the Economic Development Corporation, we can't force the owner to lower his land unless we offered an incentive package to do that. And then a security company that had looked at some land in Donaldsonville with the school board has since gone to St. Charles because they could not work on we tried to work with the school board, but they wanted more rent for the facility that they were planning to lease, which, of course, we can't control either. But anyway, so we worked on that project also. These are RFPs that we've actually responded to. The plastics company, as I mentioned, it just gives you a little flavor. A call center, film studio, distribution, manufacturing, and another food project. And you can tell that some of these came from the Baton Rouge Chamber's leads. Some come from local realtors, and some have come from Mike Olivier's office, the Department of Economic Development. And then here are some inquiries. Staubach Company on a soft goods. Once again, we get just inquiries from people, general information. Sometimes they may not even have site specifics. We worked with a deli looking at the Gonzales, Prairieville area. The bed and breakfast that was potentially planned for Donaldsonville. We met with those folks. And then a potential hotel development in Gonzales and Prairieville. What's coming up over the next few months? One of the things that we've done, and Ozzy will cue this in a few minutes, is that we have actually asked the GIS technology department to put together a large map of large parcels in the parish, which I think never been done before. This will allow us to look at the larger sites, over 500 to 5,000 acres. And what we'd like to do down the road eventually is to look at, and this has been recommended by a lot of the site selection consultants, but to have one certified site in the parish that would be basically ready for economic development. Tangipahoa is doing that right now, mainly for auto assembly. Also, the Washita Parish is working on one, and this would allow once again, can I go back? Well, I guess I can't. But this would allow us to have a site that would not have to would be under option. It would have a Phase 1 environmental. It would basically be ready to go a few stages by about 6 to 12 months and allow us to be prepared. So this would be something that would take a few years to go through, but it would be very helpful for us in the site selection process to have a certified site in the parish moving forward, and maybe even have the certified site in the Baton Rouge region working with the Baton Rouge Chamber. So as soon as Ozzy gets the map up, I will take a look at what we're talking about. It's actually all on all this is on our website. Presentation, all of our minutes, so our website is our portal to everything. And I wanted to personally compliment the Department of Technology. They have been a tremendous asset to us in information, and I just do that because Ozzy is there, but they've really been a great help to us in getting information on the parish, from pipelines for prospects to this map that they've done for us. Can you blow up maybe to the areas around the river so I can show the plants and the large parcels? This may be tough to look at, but basically what we've done is that any parcels 500 acres to 5,000, we've basically plotted on a map. Now, does that mean that these parcels are available? As you can tell from some of them that have actually within, like for, let's say BASF, for example, Ozzie, why don't you go to BASF? I think their parcel may be a couple thousand acres. That does not mean, obviously, the whole parcel is available. But what we're trying to do is determine how much of that parcel is available for downstream operations or development. So it may only be a couple of hundred acres. So our plan is to eventually determine how much of that available land is available and begin to market and have in our inventory those sites for development. One of the other things that's been difficult, too, is with the change in the chemical ownership of different plants, what happens is and of course these are 500 acres, so some of these, let's say around Air Liquide, may be less than, obviously, 500 acres. But because they've changed ownership, one of the plants there may be under a different name from years ago that may actually own the property. So it's been tough in trying, so we have a lot more work to do. Obviously, it's not done or completely done, but we're going to have a better idea of the larger parcels in the parish. And from this list, and we begin the process of looking at a certified site in Ascension Parish over the next couple of years. Yeah, I'll see if there's any questions. And we actually have the owner of the site, and we'd be making contact and meeting with all the individual site owners over the next couple of years. So, and that's a lot to throw at you, but we've been busy.
Any questions or anything for Mr. Kurtz? I would, in just a second, Tom.
Okay, sure.
I would like to very much thank you for all you've done. I think if anybody had any questions this past year when we voted for some money for Economic Development Corporation in Ascension Parish, those questions have all been answered. It's something that is very much needed. It's going to bring jobs to the parish, and it's going to be. It feels good to have someone to turn to now as people come in. Before, we really didn't. We would hear about things, people would inquire, and we really wouldn't know what process to go through. And it's very, very well done, and we appreciate everything you've done. And just keep up the good work. Keep them coming.
Anything else? Okay, sure.
You're all ensconced in the Tourist Commission building in Sorrento.
Mm-hmm.
Public's invited to come by if they want to.
Right, all of our meetings, which are held basically every quarter, every 3 months. Actually, that's all on our website at ascensionedc.com. Our next meeting, I think, is September 22nd. They're always held on a Thursday, held on a Thursday at 4 o'clock. So even if you miss the meeting, the minutes are there, and so is the presentation. So all of it. The only thing that we can't share, obviously, are when we work with companies. That's very confidential. We'll stay confidential. But any other information, obviously, is out there. And I really recommend you all take a look at the site. There's a lot of information that you may be working on a project for demographics or buildings and sites. A lot of it's there. So as I tell people, go to the website, and they do. So.
And I think Tommy is going to be coming every other month.
Right. I'll come every other month just because you don't want to see the same presentation again. We'll have some updates. Usually 60 days probably is a better scenario. So we'll come every 2 months of the meeting.
Yes, Mr. Hillenbeck.
Yeah, Tommy, could you give, well, I'm drawing a blank now all of a sudden, give Ozzie a little clip of some kind, maybe he could run on the Ascension channel.
Okay.
That would, just something short and brief that lines out when your meetings are, where you meet, and that type of thing. I think it'd just be good to.
Okay, I'll send the link and all that though. But yeah, we like I said, that's all open. We have 4 meetings a year, and we actually, one thing that also I failed to mention was that Ozzie did I think a 21 on 21 recently on Lamar Dixon. They actually highlighted or talked about the incubator a little bit, and then we actually are inviting Ozzie out to do when we have a tenant out there, which will be in mid-July, to come and tape all that. So and also I think there's going to be a couple of sessions on 21 on 20 on what we're working on too. So we're going to make sure the public know that we're busy and there are a lot of things going on in the parish. So we will do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys, take care.
Number 5, report by Planning and Zoning Commission. And then, Mr. Allen, I know you got thrown into this, but if you could just give us verbally what you have, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, rather than go through all of the subdivisions we approved or zoning issues we passed or denied, I just want to hit a couple of the highlights that things that we've passed that will be coming forth to whether to this body or the planning from the Planning Commission to this or the council. As far as on the planning side of it, we passed a revision to the hardship family partition to try and bring them more in line with what we do in subdivisions in regards to drainage, traffic, and those key areas that cause a disruption in the surrounding properties. That ordinance should be either coming to this body or the council, and I'm not sure what the protocol is, but we've passed that on the planning side. On the zoning side, we are drafting up a bed and breakfast description. As you heard, there's a bed and breakfast that's proposed down at Homeless House, and kind of in an overlay zone. What we want to try and do is go ahead and fine-tune that to get a defined bed and breakfast definition in the zoning ordinance. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I got a question.
Yes, Mr. Hillingsback.
Okay, thank you. The, has the one at the homeless house, has that been approved already?
Yes.
Okay, so is it grandfathered in, or will the new bed and breakfast definition you're working
No,
on?
it's grandfathered in based on overlay historic site.
Okay, so what you're working on, is that going to affect them or
No,
hold them up?
no,
Okay,
not at all.
they got approval to move forward?
Absolutely.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. And report by Zoning Board of Adjustments and Appeals. They couldn't make it tonight, so we're going to pass on number 6, and we'll get their report next month. Discussion of adjudicated property, Troy Humphrey, attorney.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
he just came in. He was held up in the traffic. I think he's making his way into the building right now.
okay, we're going to move that down on the agenda and put it after construction specifications. We'll put it at 9A.
Thank you, sir.
Ascension Parish Drainage Ordinance, Mr. Michael Songi.
Thank you. I've distributed.
Michael, could we go ahead and have some people that want to speak on this agenda item? We'll let them.
You want to let them
We'll
speak
let them
first? Sure.
speak, and
Okay.
we'll bring it up from there. Mr. Mitchell Epps.
Thank you very much. I appeared before this group on the 27th of February this year and made two, I felt, very constructive recommendations to be considered to be made part of these regulations. And I'll briefly review them again with you. In my many years of experience in management, if you have regulations, if you don't hold somebody specifically responsible and accountable to see that they're done, it won't happen. And I proposed specific wording at that time and gave all the members of the commission copies and also Mr. Sanjay a copy. And I said the wording should read like this: it shall be the responsibility of the engineering review agency for the Planning and Zoning Commission to ensure that all the requirements spelled out in these regulations have been followed in their entirety. He shall have personally reviewed all the engineering studies and documents that are required to be prepared and certified to the Commission that the applicant is in full compliance with all the regulations before the Commission votes to approve on any new projects. If or when the project is approved, the documents that the engineering review agency is certified to be complete and meeting all drainage regulations shall be included in the minutes of the meeting and become part of public records. And I felt that was certainly a reasonable request if you expect to be followed and expect them to be done, and where they can be reviewed and become a matter of public record. The other recommendation I made pertained to paragraph 7, item C, where they refer to the it shall comply with the existing Ascension Parish Planning and Zoning Commission impact studies policies that were approved on May the 14th, 2003, that they be made a part of that exhibit or an addendum to the regulation. So there's no question what they are intended to be. Those are the main two issues that I have, which I previously covered, as you know.
Could you repeat that second one again,
second thing,
Mitch?
The what?
Would you say the second one again, please?
The second one pertaining to paragraph 7, item C, where reference is made to the fact that a copy of the existing Ascension Parish Planning and Zoning Commission impact study policies that were approved on May the 14th, 2003, be made an exhibit to these new regulations. Oh, I'm sorry. 12C, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. C.
Yeah, it says that it performs
Just,
in accordance with
just
the
make
current-
those regulations of an exhibit to this new policies.
Yes, I mean.
The zone-
what
parish
it says
planning
in
and
C
zoning
now
policies.
is that the impact studies shall be performed in accordance with the current drainage impact study policy as set
That's
by
right.
the Ascension
Or make
Parish
them an
Planning.
addendum or part of an exhibit to these new regulations so that there'll be no misunderstanding of what they intended to be.
Okay, Michael, you understand those wordings there? Okay.
I have one
we'll
other
discuss
new
that.
comment to
And we'll
make, if I
discuss
may,
the first
pertaining
item.
to these.
Yes.
On that same section we just referred to, we referred to a 10-year design basis, and I think that's totally unrealistic. I think that we should look more like a 25-year period, because you just had, to give you an example, you just had a 12-inch rain in Houston here on the 19th of June, and a 14-inch rain in DeQuincy, which is just our neighbors, in the last week. So I just think that the 10-year design storm is totally unrealistic in this area. And also at the same time that the interior design should be based on a 10-year storm instead of a 5.
Right.
That's the only additional comments I have to make.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Red Bourgeois. And Red, we'll give you a couple of extra minutes. You're speaking for a number of people here.
Okay, I appreciate it. I'll be brief. We have some concern in reference to the drainage, new drainage ordinance, et cetera. Mainly, a lot of things are going to affect my way of doing business and quite a few other people's, along with some liabilities I see in the problems that it will cause. First of all, there's people like Dempsey Pendarvis and Sean Martin that are continuously digging sand, and trucks are out there every day moving materials into Ascension Parish, and my trucks as well hauling that material. I'm also digging a 10-acre lake in AC, and that's my revenue, my way of doing business. I'm under contract to do that. If I don't fulfill that, I can get sued and lose my way of doing business. What this ordinance is requiring is basically, I think you're asking everybody in the floodplains to dig a hole in their backyard, a quarter-acre hole, half-acre hole, or whatever they need to elevate their properties. You're asking for, we're fighting the West Nile problem. You're going to fight, I think you're going to have a lot worse problem in that area, along with other problems. You're going to have the liability problems of numerous ponds out there. We're all forced to fence in our swimming pools, me included, my partner included, because our insurance won't cover it. Now, I think a pond's more, just as easily, you can drown in that just as easy as a pool, and I see it as a liability. And who's to say the parish said you have to build that pond, and I know they're going to get out of the liability of it, but who's to say they can? And let's just give a comparison. I was talking to Mr. Martin. Walmart bought 20,000 yards of fill material, and imagine how many jobs that created, et cetera. The vast majority of the property in Ascension Parish is floodplain, so you're affecting a lot of the remaining developers and developing. Another problem that I see too in digging a pond, you always have to slope your ponds with a 45-degree angle to try to prevent further cave-in. Most of the time that works, but there's a lot of people that goes in there 5 feet away from the adjacent property, dig straight down to get enough dirt and gets out of there. Either they don't know what they're doing or they do know what they're doing and they don't care because they're not worried about it later on. It's the property owner. And what happens, two things, the wind and the erosion takes that water, that volume of water into the next property. or you can shore it up, which I'd love to see that happen. I'm in the shoring business, but not really. I'd rather stay on the Virgin Canal and do shoring instead of having to go to a guy that's dug a pond 10 years ago and has to pay me $10,000 to shore up his pond to keep him from going into the neighbor's yard. These problems, along with others, we went over a lot of the technical problems we were reviewing in the back, and if y'all meet any more, we would like to meet with the guys making those decisions. But I think it's it's very premature and too tightly written. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One thing I think we need to clear up right now, Michael, I think people think that we're talking about ponds as a solution to these drainage problems and digging ponds in order to move dirt on property, and that's not what they're talking about at all. What they're talking about, if you're going to build up 2 feet, you have to take 2 feet away. In fact, if you do a pond, everything below the water doesn't account to what you build up. So what you're doing, in a sense, is that whatever amount of buildup you do, you have to take that amount of dirt away to allow flow of water. You are not to impede the amount of water that they had from the time you got there until the time you finish building. And it's basically what it comes down to is a very simple process. And what we're having is that people are building in the floodplains, in the flow of water, and they're building up virtual dams, and the water is backing up in areas, and we're getting flooding in people's homes in Ascension Parish, and it's not acceptable. And so we have an ordinance that does not say you have to build ponds. We have an ordinance that says that you have to, if you choose to take dirt on your property and build up in a floodplain, you have to take dirt away equivalent to that will allow for that same amount of movement of water. And it's basically if somebody has a ditch coming, a drainage ditch coming from your property across their property, they can't stop it up. If they decide to stop it up, they have to dig around that area to allow that much water to go through it, so that people that are draining as they are now continues to drain as they are. That is the intent of the ordinance, and that is the way the ordinance is written. And I think, Michael, if you can address those issues, I think that's all of the people we have signed up on this.
Okay, thank you. Just want to say in front of you, I handed out a copy of the proposed ordinance, and in underlined language are the changes that were made since the last discussion that we had at strategic planning. That would be this document here. It says Ascension Parish Drainage Ordinance on the top. And then behind that is a black and white copy of the PowerPoint that I'm fixing to do. And for the attendees here, these are extra copies as well of the drainage ordinance and the PowerPoint. And I need some help from technology over there. There we go. What I'd like to do, if it's okay with the committee, is to go through this PowerPoint real quick. I think it may answer some questions. Then I'll go through and address all of the comments from the public, and then obviously we can have some discussion and more. Okay. The purpose and intent of the ordinance is to provide for protection from flooding for all properties in Ascension Parish, or really caused by the development of any property in Ascension Parish. And we define what development is. And development basically means anyone that owns land and chooses to change the grade of their land, irregardless of it's a homeowner. I'll get into that into the next slide. This affects all property owners. It would affect residential subdivisions. It would affect commercial developments, family partitions, all property owners who wish to change the grade of their land. A lot of comments about the design storm frequency, and I want everyone to understand this. We are protecting structures, which are homes and commercial structures, to the 100-year storm. Let's make no doubt about that. We are protecting structures to the 100-year storm. What we're proposing here is a greater degree of caution than what is currently in the ordinance. We're requiring finished floors to be above 4 different criteria. They must be above the FEMA base flood elevation, which, as you all know, the new maps are coming out this year. It must be 1 foot above any known record inundation or any record water level that is known from the past. It must be 1 foot above the center line of the roadway in front of the structure, and it must be 1 foot above the nearest sanitary sewer manhole. When we talk about the issue of design calculations being to the 10-year and, as Mr. Epps requested, to the 25-year, please understand we're talking about roadway design and not structure design. And we had some discussion last time about how when you raise roads, you start to build dams. And so we want to protect the roads, that is true, but we also want to make sure that our roads don't flood our structures. So these are the 4 criteria that govern the construction of roads, meaning the lowest gutter elevation must meet the following criteria. 1 foot below FEMA base flood elevation, which basically gives you about a 2-foot differential between the home and the road. 2 inches below the design water surface of the interior subsurface drainage system. It must be equal to the peak water surface elevation of the detention pond system or record inundation. So if we have known flooding in an area that gets to elevation 12, we're saying that a roadway cannot be built below that. So there is a pretty high degree of protection there for the roadway system. We talk about protection of existing watersheds. I've got some graphics here that I hope can maybe...
Excuse me, Michael, before we go any further,
Sure.
I want to make sure, because we're talking about roadways, I want to make sure we assure people. What we are trying to do is make sure that if there is any water standing, that it stands in the road and not on the structures, and that we're trying to make sure that the structures are protected. Because, and one of the things that people have talked to us about and we've met about is that we want to get all the roads above all of the water, which is really not practical because you end up making a system of dams around, and then the people's structures become at risk at that point because of the roads. And so there is a requirement of elevation on the roads, but we're making sure that the roads do not cause the structures to flood. So we're trying to make sure of that.
Kent, just one other comment on top of that is when you have structural flooding, that's flooding. But when you have street flooding, that is nuisance flooding, and that's temporary for the time. That water is going to run off with no damage, hopefully, to the structures.
That's correct. And to some degree, you want those roads passable. You know, generally, most vehicles today can go through a foot of water. Not that you want to have a foot of water, but it's not the end of the world if you have 2 or 3 inches of water at the low point of a roadway. Okay. Got a little sketch or exhibit here that we're talking about, switching gears a little bit, protection of existing watersheds. What we're trying to prevent is a development coming in and totally changing the direction that, or the outfall streams that the property currently drains in. We basically want to maintain that, maintain the status quo. So I have a series of slides here. This shows a box. It's kind of an outline of a development with a ridge running through the middle. You can see at the top that you have 16 acres, 16 CFS of flow going to the back of the site. I don't think it's cut off at the bottom, but I think it has 4 acres, 4 CFS at the on the low. Yeah, there it is on the lower side. So I'm going to show you somewhat how a subdivision design can occur, where the acreages may change slightly, but the runoff from the site, meaning the 4 CFS to the front and the 16 CFS to the back, can maintain the same. And basically, what you see here is that the subdivision goes in, the area to the front got smaller the area to the front, to the rear got larger because the area in the rear is draining into a detention pond that allows you to reduce the flow. And you can see that you have 18 acres of area in the back, but you still maintain 16 CFS of flow. And then in the front part of the site, you've reduced the area down to 2 acres, but it's developed, and so, but you're still maintaining that 4 CFS of runoff. So it's just a general concept of how we play with these ridge lines a little bit, but what we're trying to achieve is that when the water leaves the site, it's at the same flow rate that it was before they developed. We also, there's a requirement for the conveyance of streams through property, that they analyze these in their existing condition before development occurs. In this case, the stream runs through the property. On the upstream end where it exits, we have determined an existing water surface elevation of 14. And then post-develop, they make improvements to that stream. They may change the route. They may put some culverts in, take some culverts out, but in the post-development scenario, they've reduced the water surface down to elevation 13.5. And this is kind of a profile graphic of that, where the dashed light blue line at the top is the existing water surface profile, and the dark blue is the what we call proposed condition. And it accounts for, you know, changes in the channel bottom, the width, culverts that have been removed, and culverts that have been had to be placed in the stream. But it basically ensures to that property owner upstream that the water surface elevation will not get larger. Okay, there's already been some discussion about fill being placed below the 100-year floodplain. Just some graphics on that. In this case, the rear of the site was below the floodplain. Got it shaded there, showing you the area of it. And as Kent pointed out, if you choose to create a lake to handle your mitigation, the entire area that you cut out is really not credit. You see here we have a normal pool of 14 feet. Well, all that area is not considered credit. It's only the area from the proposed pool surface up to natural ground. And so that volume must match the volume that they place below the 100-year flood. And there's other ways to do it, and I'll get into that when I respond to the comments. We do allow for this mitigation to occur from off-site sources, meaning that if you can't do it on your site and you can reach an agreement with an adjacent property owner, that that's acceptable too. But we do have some stipulations that say if you're going to get it from off-site, it can only be from an area that's no greater than 1 foot above the 100-year flood elevation of the site, or 2 feet below. So in this instance, if the 100-year flow was elevation 17, you could go down in the watershed to a point where the 100-year flood is 15 to achieve your off-site fill. But then if you wanted to go upstream, you could go up to elevation 18. And this just assures that the additional storage that's being created by the excavation has some value to that particular site. Excess storage credits may be created by a development, and they can also stay in place for 5 years, and the ERA can basically issue a credit letter that gives if there's some excess credit, where a developer can use that in the future. And we put a time frame on it simply because, you know, if it starts to hang out there too long, there gets to be some confusion about it. And generally, these credits can get utilized pretty quickly. Stormwater detention, there's been a lot of, you know, discussion on that. I want to make some points very clear of what's in the ordinance. It will require stormwater detention for all commercial development. When I say all, that means 100 by 100 commercial site on a corner. And it's going to be require these commercial sites to have additional land to do it, or to do it in subsurface pipe systems. We currently review all of the commercial site applications that go through Lance's office. I can tell you the majority of them are not engineered. They're not planned for. And I think that if this community is not careful, You're going to see more and more commercial development just dispersing more water out there, doing a lot more damage than the residential developments that are occurring. And it's been discussed in several meetings, and this is the wishes that everyone that I feel wanted to do, and that was to require commercial developments to achieve stormwater detention. It's going to be required for all residential development with a few exceptions. If you have lots equal to or greater than 1 acre, which there's not a whole lot of those happening right now. If you're located immediately adjacent to a major stream or channel, and I'm going to show you a graphic here. If you're located immediately adjacent to a major stream and you have the ratio of the overall watershed above you, in this case 300 acres, and if your site is 10 acres, and the ratio that we're looking for in the ordinance, I believe, is 25. What this does, or what this is telling us, is that this site is relatively small to the watershed above, and it's also pretty far down in the watershed. And the theory here is that on these lower sites is you want to let the water go, let it get out, let the timing of it get out quicker before the top of the watershed gets to this same location. So if you slow down the water at the top and you let it go down at the bottom, you shouldn't see the peaks coming together, and that's basically what you're trying to achieve. There are situations where this same ratio may occur, but there may be a channel from the site to the, or a ditch, let's call it, from the developed site to the major channel, and if that ditch is not large enough, then they would have to do detention on the site, or they would have to prove that there's enough capacity in that ditch to handle the additional water without causing impact to adjacent properties. There's a lot of talk about the side slopes of ditches, in this case 3-to-1, and rear yard swales being 5-to-1. Detention ponds, there was discussion about 2-to-1 slopes below the water surface, 4-to-1 above. That's all in here. Stormwater conveyance systems, one of the primary features of this ordinance is the parish wants to get away from open ditch subdivisions, so open ditches will not be allowed in the public right in any public street right of way. Effluent from treatment plants must outfall into enclosed storm drainage systems. And then rear yard swale, and this is a current requirement for the rear yard swales. Design criteria is currently written up with a 10-year frequency for a 24-hour storm duration for the design of the detention pond and the roads. Interior subsurface storm system is 5-year storm frequency, and then drainage impact studies must be in accordance with the current drainage impact policy. I do want to say also in regard to the drainage impact policy, which is really a tool that the Planning Commission hands out to developers and their engineers to tell them how we want these drainage studies performed. As soon as this ordinance is adopted, we will be revising the drainage impact policy, and that is really an issue that the Planning Commission approves. It's not ordinance. It follows the ordinance, but it's just a lot more detail, personal preference types things that the ERA may be looking for. It's not intended for any of that information to be ordinance. Okay, I'll just address the comments from the public, and then at that point we can see where you want to go with this. Regarding the ERA certification, I'm not sure that I completely understand Mr. Epps' comment, but you know, we are not, as an engineering review agency, we are not the designer. We work for the parish to see that the rules and the ordinance is followed, but when you start putting in certifications, I would want his request to be discussed with the parish attorney, because I feel that the parish could be taking on some undue liability there in trying to certify on top of another engineer that's doing the design. But that's something that could be looked at. The gentleman concerned about the creating of lakes, and Ken, I think you talked about it, but if you're trying to mitigate for placing fill in the flood zone, you do not have to create a pond. You can simply shave off the land. You just got to make sure that you have some drainage ditch down there that you can drain the land off into. But you can easily, if you're having to fill, you know, an area 1 foot to build your home, you can basically go down on another part of your site and shave that area down 1 foot. You don't have to create a lake. So there's very many ways this can be done without the necessity of creating a lake.
Comment on it.
Sure.
Yes, sir. With these new FEMA maps that we're getting right now, that's coming out, a majority of the parish is in a flood zone area. When you go to shaping, you know, the land is flat to start with. I don't know what you're going to shape to without, you know, putting ditches downstream all the way to a canal. I'm talking about a homeowner. I'm not talking about a developer now. Say a homeowner wants to, you know, build on this particular property as flood zone. You're saying he can't add dirt because he's in a flood zone. He can shape it. But what is he going to shape it to if he has a 2-acre plot, 1-acre plot? He's going to shape it to the front. It can't go nowhere if he goes down because downstream of him is up. You say it's easily done, but I see where it could be.
You do have to have some form of a swale or a ditch or an outfall to be able to do it. You are correct.
But in the flood zone area, we're going to be limited very.
Right. But the subdivisions that are creating the smaller lots are typically taking care of this mitigation issue as part of the construction of the subdivision.
I'm still talking,
right.
you know,
but
local.
And my feeling is, and you know, maybe this needs some more consideration, is that typically the other landowners have larger parcels. They have some swale, ditch, whatever, some means of draining their property, and basically that is what they would have to do: widen that swale, widen the ditch, or maybe the answer is reaching an agreement with the downstream owner that's just downstream of them. You know, can I go down and widen your ditch and clean out your ditch and you know, use that material?
But they all downstream of them, all in the flood zone also. So you know, you're gonna run
That's
into the
okay.
same problem.
No, that's where you want the material to come from. Is you want the excavation to come out of the flood zone to create the storage. So that is what you're trying to achieve. The issue is more the logistics of, you know, if you can't do it on your site, you know, of having to make that agreement with someone else. And we could maybe look at some, you know, hardship conditions or something like that. You know, I've tried not to.
That's my biggest,
right.
You know, problem
and
with this ordinance right now is that
is a concern,
and the
it
people
may
are coming
be
to
something
me with.
that, you know, maybe you want to empower the director of public works, or you know, I don't think you want a case where, you know, all these issues have to be coming back to the council every time someone has a problem. But
and you know well as I know, far as digging a pond in a flood zone sheet flow area causes more trouble than hauling in fresh dirt.
Right.
You know the situation I'm talking about.
Right. A lot of people want to create ponds because of the aesthetic value, but other people don't, just like the gentleman said. And so, you know, we're not saying that you have to do a pond or that you can't do, or, you know, you can do it either way. But I think your issue is a good point. If you don't have access to some deeper ditch that allows that property to drain off,
the homeowner would have to put his house on piers. He wouldn't be able to build up.
Well, and that's not a, you know, that's a solution there that's certainly not out of the question. I mean, a homeowner may look at it and say, well, let me put it on piers, and you know, you can construct a home today that's on piers, and from the front it doesn't even look like it is. But that is a solution. That may be an easier solution, you know. So I do understand your point, and I think maybe the avenue, and you know, it's maybe the avenue is you leave room for the director of public works or whoever you would designate, that would be the logical person, to, you know, approve waivers or exceptions to the ordinance. I don't think you want every exception coming back to the council, but you know, and I hate to put exceptions in here, because when you start doing that, you start opening up the, you know, but you could leave some discretion, with the permit office or the director of public works would be one avenue to take.
And Michael, one of the things, to help assure the people, most people are within a foot of the 100-year floodplain that you're building up. And if you dig any type of swale from the boundaries of your property, if you have undeveloped land, it's going to be flat, like you said. And if you dig any type of swale, you can put that foot under the pad of your house, and that brings you up to level. And then once you get to the 100-year floodplain line, once to that line, you can haul in all the dirt you want.
You can haul in all you want.
You can build it up 15 feet if you want from there. It doesn't matter.
I think
that's another thing. All they're talking about is that area in between the floodplain, that the water flows. Once you reach that flow area, it's immaterial what you haul in. So you can haul in from there. And so there, and I'm for if we have a special situation that we do have an out for it. But I would think, looking into it, it's going to be very few cases that we would have. And be quite honest with you, we're getting to the point where we're building in flooded areas and we're causing more people to flood. So we got a choice to make. We can either keep doing what we're doing and flood the people of Ascension Parish, or we can change. And it's going to be hard on some people, and some people may have to build on piers. If you're going to build right next to a bayou or a big ditch, you may have to build on piers. And that's the choices we're going to have to make, or we're going to flood. I mean, there's no other choice. And that's the way we looked at it when we tasked them to come up with this. And if you fall into that situation where you buy some property, and if building up the property causes other people to flood, then I would suggest you build on piers, because we don't want anybody else to be caused to flood. That is the most important thing in this parish right now, is to keep other people from flooding. And we all have to make sure that that's our number one goal. So whatever we do, whatever exceptions we make, we need to make sure that they are manageable, that we can do it, and that we're not going to have a negative impact on anybody else. I know for a fact you can build a house on piers. It does happen. I'm not an advocate of that. But that's one of the things that's happening, and you build in Ascension Parish is one of the reasons why the people built them years ago like that, and because of the yearly rainfall and yearly flooding that we have over here. And we've contained it to a certain amount, but Mother Nature's going to win sometimes. And so let's realize our limitations. I'm concerned about what Mr. Epps had brought about, Michael, with for the public records, the information that is given out, the documents that are given out for subdivision regulations by engineers and such, that it be submitted as public records where people can check that. Are we assured that that is in place?
Yes, I mean, that's really not addressed here, but that's, I think an attorney will tell you, that's in the Public Records Act. And we have requests all the time to turn information over, and we simply ask that the requests go through the Planning Commission staff, since that's who we work for. And if they contact us and ask us to release a study, then we do.
When something goes to the Planning Commission right now, and we're looking, Joe Blow's in the audience, or a Planning Commission member is here trying to make a decision, and do they have access and results of all of these studies that they can look at to make an educated decision beforehand? Or do we have
We're not bringing the studies to the meetings. We have our review letter with our comments, and that documents our comments and the changes made by the design consultant. That is, letter is there at the meeting. But are we bringing the actual studies? Not necessarily.
So your letter is what the people use as your so-called assurance that the guidelines have been met and you've been reviewed by you.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is the evidence, if you will, that the studies have been reviewed or gone through a review process, and the commissioners themselves look at that letter closely and may question more things than we bring up or may not. But it is a documentation to the commission and to the public that we have reviewed it, what were our questions and concerns, and we state exactly whether or not the consultant responded to those comments and corrected them, or whether he didn't. You know.
And then if they want to go into it further than that, they can go in as a public
Right.
document and
Sure.
do research from there.
Yeah, and if it's that controversial, I mean, a lot of times the planning commission may defer the decision, which would allow more time. But you got to understand, these studies are very technical. They're prepared by professional engineers, and really, if you're not a professional engineer, it's going to be very difficult for you to pick up that study at the meeting. And I mean, even an engineer that's capable of reviewing it is going to really need to go back and spend several hours looking at it, looking at the conditions in the field. So there's really no way at a public meeting that it's feasible for anyone to look at a study.
I guess what we're doing is we're looking for assurances that the people have assurances that the proper documents,
Right.
or proper records and everything have been made, and the studies done by the engineers. And if there's a process in there that shows that this has been done, has been followed, has been checked and okayed, then that's basically, Mr. Helps had talked to us, and the concern of the people is that these things were done and checked and okayed. And then if somebody has any further questions, they can dig further.
But I think that's a matter of public records. I don't know that really needs to be. I mean, we could add it in here, but I don't know that needs to be added in the drainage ordinance. That any information submitted to the planning staff becomes public record information. So at any point in time, if someone wants information that's been submitted to us or the planning commission, they can simply request it, and you know, we provide copies of it.
And Alan, y'all get adequate information on that?
Yeah, we get everything that we need. It's pretty clear. It's a rigorous review process that they go through. And, you know, this drainage ordinance is something that we support. We passed unanimously, and it'll give the parish more enforcement on commercial developments and individual developments, and we just ask for your blessing on it and approval of it.
The other thing is that the last time we met, I think Mr. Rue had said that y'all had discussed on going to 25-year retainage and 10-year runoff on interior.
Yeah, that was the last thing on the comments. Don't know that I've discussed that with Bill Rue. I know Councilman Hillsback had a comment last time. I'm going to give you my personal opinion, and I'm not here to say that it's right, okay? But I don't think that designing detention ponds and roads to meet a 25-year storm is going to solve the problems. I think the other things in this ordinance are going to do a whole lot more benefit than that. And again, I think you're spending, using additional land to create larger detention ponds. You're raising the elevations of your roads. And, you know, again, what is it that we're trying to protect? And that's why I want to make that very clear. The structures are being protected to the 100-year event. And the fill mitigation is being protected to the 100-year event, which is where it should be.
So we're going down from there. So
well, you're intentionally going down, because if you protected your roads to the 100-year, the road would be at the same grade as the structure, and then it's all flat. I mean, you have to have a hierarchy. And I mean, my only other comment is, I'm going to say well over 90% of the drainage ordinances in communities and parishes use 10-year as their design storm frequency for, you know, ponds and roads. Yeah, you're going to see a few communities that have gone higher. That doesn't necessarily mean, you know, and I'm not saying I'm right, but you know, I think this issue you know, we've been working on this for a long time, and it's been a 10-year through this whole process, and a lot of people have signed off on this document knowing that it's 10-year, and I would, if we go to 25, or that's a decision of the committee, then I think you're going to see some other objection come out that.
Well, I also think that if we take it as is and apply it, we're going to get some data in the next couple of years to say
Right.
just how effective it is, and then we can make decisions on where we're going to go from there. But there's no questions. A lot of the other
Right.
stuff would be beneficial.
If
Mr. Hillsborough.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I was given this information recently. In the Netherlands, they plan for the 10,000-year flood event. Of course, they have a problem a lot different from what we face here. I guess my concern in all of this is, and I'm sure everyone around the table, and you included, your concern is protecting the people of Ascension Parish, the folks that are already here. And in the previous discussion we had whether the 10-year flood event was adequate, you stated, well, 90% of the country goes with a 10-year flood event. But our situation here in Ascension Parish in South Louisiana is unique and different to probably what you don't see in 90% of the country, because we're subject to torrential downfall range, we're subject to tropical storms, we're subject to hurricanes. And so my concern is I just feel like the 10-year flood event is not enough. And it just seems like, Mike, when you look at what was in place, and this is what the parish has used, the Drainage Impact Study Policy by the Planning and Zoning Commission, it just seems like it's not, it looks like we might be loosening it up in some areas, and I'm not certain that's the way, you know, the route we want to go or the place we want to go. If anything, I'd want it tightened up all the way around. Recently, I had a conversation with an engineer with the Corps of Engineers, and he was not impressed at all with detention ponds. He just flat out says he's not satisfied that that's an answer, that's enough to address floodwater runoff. And I guess my question, and of course it's somewhat answered in your presentation, where you don't get credit for the standing water or where the pond fills up. You don't get credit. You're only getting credit for the my question is, you know, with the high water table we have in much of Ascension Parish, it just seems like you're out there digging a pond. It's really of no benefit. It's going to fill back up, and I guess I'm just curious how the detention pond is the answer. So.
Well, it's the answer when you have a deep drainage outfall, ditch, that allows you to bleed down the normal pool of that pond a foot or two below natural ground. That's what's creating the storage. And basically, if the ordinance is requiring detention and that site does not have access to, it's kind of similar to Councilman Lambert's comment, if that site doesn't have access to a ditch, they basically can't develop. So in a lot of situations, that is preventing a particular site from developing because they can't create the outfall to drain the pond.
Right.
Let me point out one more thing regarding this design frequency. If you go to Section 5, Roman numeral 5, item B4, it's on page 3. This is the section, remember I talked about you have an existing stream through the property. And I think with Mr. Epps, we're all very familiar with the Keystone development in Henderson Bayou. What we're saying here in item B4 is that for major streams, as defined by the Department of Public Works, the ERA may require this analysis to be based on a higher storm frequency than the 10-year event, particularly when the difference between the 10-year and 100-year is greater than 18 inches. This was put in here particularly to address that, where you have a major stream and there's concern about filling in the overbank areas and building detention ponds along the stream, is that, and basically that's what we did for Keystone. We went and asked him to look at that storm of record back in 1983 and put a 100-year storm on top of that, or vice versa. But so this gives us the ability in judgment as an ERA to say, no, I do want to look at a higher storm event. But it's not telling him that he's got to raise his streets to a 25-year storm event. It's telling him we're looking at the big picture. This Section 5, there's nothing in your current drainage ordinance. All of this Section 5 that deals with protecting watersheds and protecting the water surface profile in a stream is not in it. And believe me, this is something that we're requiring now without the benefit of an ordinance, and I think it's doing a world of good. But we do have the ability in certain situations to ask for more than a 10-year. And again, when you go to 25, you're going to start requiring roads to be higher. You're going to be requiring more and more fill. And I think that you're elevating the wrong thing. You know, it would be, if you say you want to take houses to a 200-year storm and you want to take roads to a 25 or 50, then I would be right there with you. But, you know, you've got to have some differential between the structure and the road in order for it to work properly. But if it is, you know, if it is the wish of the committee and the council to go to a 25-year event, then you know, that's, I'm here to render an opinion, and you can certainly discuss it with, and you'll get several different opinions.
Yeah. I guess where I feel uncomfortable here, I believe we've had 3 10-year events in the last year, and so it just.
But that is not, the only thing about that has not affected a lot of people. In the areas that you're talking about, the sensitive areas, I think you do have the option to go higher than that.
Yes. Well.
And that's what we should be doing.
Right. And again, even if you've had greater, and I don't know, maybe you've had, that's 8.5 inches in a 24-hour period. Maybe you have had more than that.
We've had 3 of those rains inside the last
Right.
year. And what bothers me is when I'm thinking about what happened in 2001 with Tropical Storm Allison. I think we had, I believe we had about 30 inches of rain.
24 in 3 days.
Yeah.
24 in 3 days. I think 30 in a week. And so I'm just concerned about us having to face that situation again.
Right, and remember that this ordinance is trying to protect the citizens of the parish from future development. This is about other people developing that affect their property. If, you know, maybe the answer is under this Section 5B4 that we take these streams that run through, or channels that run through a piece of property, and say, you must protect that to a 25-year storm. That I would not have the same objection to, because you're not going to see a whole lot of difference. You're going to see some culverts jump up in size, which they really already have since we've been enforcing this. But again, what I don't want to do is start raising roads. I don't think that that's the solution. But we could look at Section B4 and say that analysis would have to be done on a 25-year event, and even still leave the door open for us to require a higher storm event if the situation arose.
Well, I could live with that change, but I'd like to go back also to Mr. Epps' original language that I think he makes a good point, a valid point about it ought to be written into the ordinance that, hey, as the ERA, you're responsible. I mean, I guess that's the military side of me coming out, that somebody's going to have to be responsible.
I understand.
That's approving this.
And we do take that responsibility. I would tend to ask legal counsel on that. That's really more of a policy, if you will, by the commission, and the way, because remember, we work for the commission. Mm-hmm. And they direct us on what it is that we do for them. And so maybe that's an issue that's more directed as a policy of the commission as to what are they getting from me and what type of certification do I do. I mean, basically,
Yeah.
I'm providing them with a letter, and I am, signing that as a professional engineer.
Well, we can take that recommendation and run it by legal and see
Right.
see what Mr.
And I'm just not sure that you want that kind of language. Remember, once it's ordinance, the difficulty to change it is it's got to go all the way back through the process.
One thing I'd like to bring up, and it's not been brought up, and I don't think there's a person in this room right now thinking about it. The west side of the parish is not in the same boat, so to speak, as the east bank. We do not have drainage problems in the west bank. It is a totally different topographic area. And is there any way that you can have districts where some of these storm runoffs are not the same or reduced because it's absolutely not necessary in those areas?
But Kent, that's a lot, and all over on the East Bank, there's areas the same situation you're talking about. So if you put it in districts, you're gonna have to put more districts than just 1, 2.
Yeah, I would be concerned that when you start doing that, you're going to open up so many different scenarios and confusion about what the policy is. I understand where you're coming from. I do. Right now, there's just not a whole lot of development on the West Bank, and it really hasn't been an issue. But I don't think that we want to be trying to create incentives with this ordinance. This isn't the type ordinance I think that you would try to create incentives, but I can see issues of, you're going to start revisiting almost all the issues. You're going to start needing maps saying, if it's that simple west of the river and east of the river, you wouldn't need a map. But, then you're going to have other parts of the east side saying, well, I really don't need it here. And same type of issue. But, that could be done. Yes,
well,
it could be
all
done.
of the East Bank drains into the Lake Pontchartrain.
Right.
That's
That's
regardless
correct.
of where it is, all the water goes to the same place. So there is that particular difference,
Right.
and it's not that situation on the West Bank. And I would just ask you just to make sure that there's anything that would be different, that would apply to them differently, that we would take a look at it because of the drainage basin is so different. We have, since we want to make sure that it's a little bit more informal, we have somebody else that signed up on a speaker card. We will allow a couple of minutes. Billy Aguilar.
Thank you. I just want to comment on what y'all were talking about is the engineering review agency certifying that the subdivisions meet the requirements of all the plans. The engineer of record is actually required to do that now, since he is liable for everything that he designed. But the engineer of record who designed the subdivision is required to certify that it meets all the parish criteria. And the testing lab also has to give a certification that they did all the testing and requirements with the parish ordinances also.
And that's who accepts the liability.
Right.
Okay. Thank you,
So
Billy.
the engineer of record is accepting that liability.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Mr. Laverne.
Thank you, Kent. I've been listening to the drainage ordinance comments. I've read it. I've looked at it, and I'd like the panel to consider the fact that for the individual homeowner who's building a home, that he has the opportunity to build his home where he could put inside his footprint of his house, the field, dirt, and dress out 10 feet past for keeping the drainage away from the foundation, and therefore less impact, less impact of the total property that he would be building on, to be considered as an exemption in lieu of having a impact study by a design engineer for that area. I think, Kent, that's going to be too costly for a homeowner to run that expense, where developers they're developing mass pieces of properties, not one, and they're doing it for a commercial endeavor. Where a homeowner trying to build his family a house to build on, put a roof over their head, has a burden to share that if he owns property in the parish, and I think that would be a design that would be an exemption, would be fitting the need, and not really traverse impact to what he's building, or he build it on piers, or if he build it on a foundation that's totally enclosed by the foundation and filled just inside the footprint with minimum drainage away from the foundation. I'd like for the panel to really consider that, because I think you're going to find, as mentioned in a previous meeting here, that that's the people who are going to be in the upset about the drainage impact. And understand.
And how high up? How high up would you recommend you allow them to go?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I would think
there's some places
2 feet would
up.
be a starting point, Jen. I don't know what to say about that, but 2 feet would probably be a maximum to do that. If you have property, say a person's in a flood zone, he's only 6 inches. You're going to make him do a drainage impact, where by the time he put up his form board, he could almost be out of there in just a little bit of minimum fill coming in there. Where he'd have to go do a total impact study or design, what I could understand from the ordinance, cost the engineer to design and give that information back to us. And it's going to be a nightmare, really, to keep up with, to be honest with you.
Well, and we're listening, and that was a discussion about before. How would you police and how would you go about doing that once the homeowner builds, and then start afterwards the occupying, they start hauling in dirt around the house?
Right. No fill being allowed other than in the imprint of the house in those areas in flood zone A, which I'm assuming this is all pointing to.
Mm-hmm.
And that would give some relief, and I think considering that and going with that measure might be a little less, I don't know, phone calls, because we're going to get the calls.
Yeah.
You know that.
Michael, do y'all want to have a discussion? Is there some room for movement in that area?
I made a decision when I was writing this ordinance that I wasn't going to put exceptions in it, not because I didn't think they would eventually make their way into it, but because you have to start, with the baseline of what you're trying to accomplish. I think Laverne's point is a very good point, and I think Councilman Lambert alluded to it a while ago. It can create a hardship on a person that maybe just doesn't quite understand this or know where to go. I still go back to, maybe I'm putting more on Bill Rue than I should, but I still go back to allowing a caveat in the ordinance, maybe not just on this one issue, but to state that, any exceptions to the drainage ordinance, must be approved by the Director of Public Works. And that way it's a very specific task that, if someone has a hardship, they would have an appeal process that they could make to, the Department of Public Works.
How much of a negative impact would it be? I mean, it doesn't appear what Laverne was saying that would have much of a negative
If it's a
impact.
house, 2,000 square foot home and it's 1 foot of fill, that's one thing. But a lot
That's
of
not
these,
what we're getting right now.
That's not what you're getting right now. And a lot of these homes they're on a 4 or 5 acre tract, and they want to build that house right in the center of that lot. And if you did a topo of the lot, you'd learn that that's 3 feet below the floodplain. And if they just shifted the house maybe further to the back or further to the front, that they'd be in 1 foot of fill, and much more desirable, situation. So that's why I hate to make a hard and fast rule and say 2 feet. Well, the Director of Public Works or whoever you would allow that authority would have the ability to go out and look at the site and say, if you just move your house over here, you won't have the issue. And if you make a hard and fast rule and say up to 2 feet, well, they're going to go figure out where they want the house and put it 2 feet below, or put it where the ground is 2 feet below. So I think that I do think there needs to be some wiggle room. I think it's a matter of how do we, and my belief is that when you start putting the wiggle room in the ordinance, then you basically have violated the ordinance. I think that it needs to be sound engineering judgment. There's a lot of factors that would go into any. It's not going to be a cookie cutter every single case, but that's adding some, some procedure and some more work, to the staff to do that. And that's probably what Bill's chumming about. I'm not looking at him, but I can see his face.
He doesn't have anything else to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think either method would be fine. And I think Laverne's point is you got people coming in applying to build a home, and they just don't understand it all.
Right.
So.
Any other comments? I think there are some things out there, obviously, that we haven't completely finalized on. Unless the committee wishes otherwise, I'd like to see you go back and make some decisions on what we've talked about, the questions that were brought up tonight, and give us some recommendations that we can vote on as to alleviate the problem Mr. Laverne brought up and to address the problem Mr. Epps had brought up. I think you've explained that it's good to have different levels so that the house is protected and not so much the road, which goes there. But I think if we solve that problem, I know Councilman Lambert, that would be one way that his concerns are addressed. I think we could move forward and have something that's pretty sound, and that will address the needs of everyone and still protect the rest of the people. Would that be, and you could have something for us in recommendations that we could vote on at the next meeting?
That's correct. And let me make sure, as I understand it, there's three areas. One is Mr. Epps' issue on the certification, and maybe I can speak with some planning commission members and decide an appropriate way to address that, whether it's in the ordinance or not. I think we may look at the higher storm event on for the streams coming through property. And then lastly would be the issue we just discussed with some type of exception for a homeowner with less than however many feet of
I think what Mr. Hillenbeck said, the streams are what's really giving us the problems. It's not so much the design in the subdivision, it's the streams that are overflowing that's causing us problems.
I understand.
So I think if we address that, that will alleviate a lot of our problems.
Right. And I think by stating the 25-year as a minimum versus the 10-year, then you're kind of sending a message there. A lot of this is people read what was the intent of the ordinance, where if you're designing the streets to 10 and you're looking at the stream at a 25, you're sending a message that you want that looked at to a greater degree of protection. So, but I can look at those three issues, and just when I'm ready, we'll resubmit to you.
Hey, before you leave, Mike,
Yes.
look, I know there's been a whole lot of work, awful lot of work go into this, and you've worked extremely hard on it. I want to thank you for that. I'm certainly not an expert. I'm relying on you, and I think we're having some honest and meaningful and truthful exchanges here, that things that needs to be looked at. I just want a good ordinance for people.
And y'all are the ones that listen to the public, and I understand that.
Right.
And
Yeah, you
I
get to go back
I
to
got an
back.
email today from someone that with pictures, and y'all hear a lot more than we do, and I think that's your motivation to try to kick it up. But I can assure you there's a whole lot more teeth in this than what you currently have. And it's not written in simple numbers of a 10-year or 25. There's a lot more to it than that. But I think we're getting there.
Yeah,
So.
thank you.
I think we are. I wanted to echo that statement. This is, regardless, a very good document. We just want to make it as best way we can before we do pass it. So let's take care of those, and we might be able to vote on something the next time. If anybody has any other concerns, please transfer them as we go. Thank you, Mike. Parish construction specifications, don't get comfortable.
Okay, since our last meeting, we received several other comments from some contractors here in the parish. We looked at those. We made some changes. We had a meeting last week with with Bill Rue and the DPW staff to talk about the comments we received, what we changed, things that we were requested that we did not change. And I'm submitting back to you a bound document. If you flip through it, you'll see two different shadings in there. There's kind of a gray shading, and there's also a yellow shading. The gray shading was the first round of comments that we received, and I believe these comments were included at the last time we discussed it. The yellow shaded comments are the most recent changes that we have made since we received all of the comments. So if this document was adopted, all of the shading, both the yellow and the gray, would be incorporated into the specifications. Kent, just as a matter of clarity, we didn't meet with Bill and them till late last week. We had these corrected today and distributed in the groups that were providing comments to us. I just got with them before the meeting and handed it to them. So I'm not sure how much time they've had to look at it. And so, but we're trying to work through this as quickly as we can with the comments that we've gotten.
And I do want to commend all the people that were involved in this. I know a number of contractors, developers, people that actually do this were looking at the technical side, and surprisingly in our meetings as we were going over this, they were looking to help strengthen some of these ordinances and make them tougher so that that the people will have to follow tighter guidelines. And it was pleasing to hear them. But we went through with very good meetings with Michael and all of those people, and they went along these subdivision construction specifications, and I think we have a real good document. And let's open it up for anyone. Comments? Billy?
Thank you, Kent. First of all, I'd like to thank all y'all for the cooperation we've had in reviewing these specifications in the past. I think we've had some very good meetings with Mr. Sanji, Mr. Rue, and with you, Mr. Kent. But as Mr. Sanji said, we were just handed this document right before the meeting, and we would like to have a little time to review them and maybe meet with Mr. Sanji and Mr. Rue again before y'all send us on to the council. We feel there's still a couple of little items that we need to kind of work on, but for the most part, we think it's getting to be a very good document. But we just need to review them, to actually review it, and to give you all a few more comments if we could.
Well, and us also, we just got the clean copy now, so we're going to take a look at it. Also, please send us your comments and everything as always. And I think we're very, very close now. And I might add, I think we did have a good document before, but I do know it is better now, and we found out that by just putting people's heads together that you can make things better, and the people in the parish have been giving very good input. So I'd like to thank you
again for y'all comments, for y'all cooperation, Mr. Kent. And again, if we've been willing to meet later this week if we could. I think a few of us are going to be out of town next week, so if we could meet later this week, we would appreciate it.
Well, go ahead and take care of it, and Ms. Suzanne, put it on the agenda for a vote. We should have, at the next meeting, we should have a clean, slate on everything for the next meeting. No,
next
strategic plan.
At last.
Welcome Mr. McConnell back at that meeting.
Did the audience get that to be July 24th?
Right. Okay, the next thing we moved from 7 to 9A is discussion of adjudicated properties. Troy Humphreys and Mr. Throckmorton had been working on this. Can you introduce?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce you to Troy Humphrey. We have met with him on 3 occasions to talk to him about starting our adjudicate property program here in Ascension Parish, and I'll just bring him before the council, his committee here, and let him present some things to you, okay? And talk about the adjudicated property program that he may start for us in this parish.
Thank you.
Good evening. How are you doing this evening?
How you doing, sir?
I'm pretty good. As Richard indicated, we've been working together a little bit. I'm in Baton Rouge. For the record, my address is 5643 Government Street, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70806, and that's Troy Humphrey. I'm currently a parish attorney in East Baton Rouge Parish. I've been practicing law for about 12 years. In East Baton Rouge Parish, we have about 6,000 pieces of adjudicated property. That's tax adjudicated property. This property is property that's delinquent, and it's not paying taxes. A lot of times it's blighted, idle, sitting there, and not doing a lot of good for the parish or the neighbors or the property owners. They still own the property. They're not living up to their tax obligation. The law in the state of Louisiana, under Title 33, allows this municipality to take the property and administer it, to sell it. Okay, there's a process and a procedure that's available by which this council can identify the property, advertise it, have interested parties come forward through a process, bid on the property. The council would approve the sale of that property as surplus property to the highest bidder, and that person would have just a few obligations of providing notice to the property owner. This is a Mennonite notice. Once that's comported with and once the delay periods run, that person can acquire this property. It's my understanding, Mr. Throckmorton indicated there are about 600 pieces of adjudicated property in your parish, and in my opinion, would be a way for the parish to, number one, get that property into commerce, back into commerce, or either alert the owner that this property is about to be sold and have them prompted to do the right thing, come back in, get caught up on their delinquent taxes and maintain their current tax status. Secondly, it would allow for property that is caught up with a diversity of ownership, i.e. grandparents' property and no succession has been done, and the regular guy on the street is not going to want to buy this piece of property because the title looks very, very awkward. It gets this property back into commerce, and so it reduces the opportunity for the blighted property. What we do in Baton Rouge, what our procedure is, and there are a couple other parishes that use a very similar procedure. It's very open to the public. The bids, the sales are all done at public auctions. The bids are basically taken in advance. They're advertised, and the process is open for additional folks to come in and bid. The high bidder would be the person eligible to close on the sale. The proceeds of the sale would go back to the coffers of the parish. If there are any outstanding liens, a pavement lien or a weed lien, hopefully a portion of the proceeds would go to pay those amounts as well as the delinquent tax. You're pretty much ready to go in the parish. You have the law of Louisiana set up to do that. Mr. Throckmorton is, I think, eager to be able to do that.
Are we ready to start moving forward?
I think you may need to tweak just a little bit of the ordinances here and adopt a procedure that we're going to follow. Whether or not the council wants to do a completely wide open bid, or if they want to use a threshold of 2/3 the value of the land as a starting point for the bid.
Mr. Hillenbeck.
Yeah, just one comment, Mr. Humphrey. I see you're a Catholic high graduate. I don't know about you working down here in Ascension Parish. You know, those,
Go Bears.
The Bears.
Well, we let people from Florida State work here.
I slipped in. I was here several years before you knew I was here.
Well, Mr. Hillenbeck, when I graduated, I think we were not even in 4A or whatever. We were 3A. So I think I can wave in, huh?
Well, I'll tell you, there is a definite divide between the Bears and the Gators from Santa Monica.
Well, we welcome you here.
Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm certainly available through Mr. Throckmorton to answer them. And if there are any particular questions with the whole notion of the tax adjudicated property and what other devices may work well with this, I'm certainly available to answer questions and to give you all my resources.
Well, what we tasked Richard to do is to go out. We need to try to start knocking down these adjudicated properties and get them back in commerce. And that if you have any recommendations for us, that give us something that we need to vote on so we can move forward. That's it. We don't know the details.
Have we retained him? I mean, do we need to?
Richard?
I know Mr. Throckmorton was
There should be an administrative.
receiving.
We do have, the state does have an ordinance to be able to sell this adjudicated property. Mr. Troy, Mr. Humphrey talked about, there might be some few things we might want to, that might be some changes we might want to do.
Yeah. We have officially.
The state does have an ordinance for adjudicated property that we can use.
We've not put a deal together. I've discussed it with Mr. Throckmorton, and I certainly will prepare whatever type of proposal would need to be passed before this committee or the council. But
I see a resume here in front of me, and I didn't know if we were being asked to consider employing you as the attorney.
Well, I certainly do, and I intend to hit the ground running. And even before I am employed, I want to get this thing off the ground for you. Stand ready to assist. But no, that's exactly what I'd like to do. I'd like to implement.
Do you need a resolution, a recommendation from the committee, Bill, or is it just administrative?
No, I think it'd be best for us to maybe get a proposal from them and also enter into a task order contract where we can just task him as necessary yearly, just like we do with other professionals. Okay. I think that'd be the best thing. But
Please
first,
take care of that.
The first thing would be a proposal for the fee schedule and things like this. We'll work this out, but then we'll bring it back to you or the finance committee maybe for
Thank you. Ordinarily we consider contracts and service contracts like that through the finance committee. But I think you're right, Bill. I think the task order contract would be the best thing to have going, and that way you can just go ahead and assign him a task contract on each of the properties.
We'll work it out and have it for the next finance meeting.
Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you.
And have it where we can start moving forward. Thank you so much.
Very nice to meet everybody. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome aboard.
Okay. Number 10, discussion and ruling of appeal. Catherine Goppel. For those of you that don't know, this is an appeal for placing a TV show on the Parish channel.
Thank you. I offered the program Keys to Good Government for consideration on March 23rd, and after 10 weeks was informed by the administration that this program was too religious and could not be aired on Channel 21. In the self-approved parish president's guidelines, an appeal can be made to the full council. I appealed on June 2nd through the chairman of the council, and under the suggestion of Mr. Shake Snyder, I came to this committee as a courtesy. The program was not produced by me, but I secured the copyright from the producer to air the program at no cost to the parish. It's 59 minutes with quotes from the Founding Fathers about their concept of our republic form of government. They were religious men who promoted, honored, and brought into public office their Christian convictions. They would not make excuses for their opinions, and neither will I. The key to good government is found in the quality of the people who rule. Good men and women will never lack good laws, nor allow bad ones. In a nation that was once distinguished for its Christian faith and made great by people of that same faith, in recent years, public expressions of that traditional faith are now viewed as a threat to the government. The real threat is not the expressions of faith, but those who are attempting to remove all expressions of Christian faith from the public arena. It is a sad commentary on our day that every religion is given freedom of expression except the Christian faith. The First Amendment secures our freedoms to choose and express whatever faith we choose. It states, quote, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishing of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. We have freedom of religion under the Constitution, not freedom from religion. President John Adams stated, and I quote, our Constitution was made only for a moral and a religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Institutions, whether government, law, media, or education, are much like cars. They take on the nature of whoever is behind the wheel. A leader will always rule by what he personally believes to be correct. He cannot separate the public policy that he enacts from what he personally believes. Parish government meetings begin with prayer. These prayers, even tonight, asking for wisdom and blessing from God, are not invoked in the name of Buddha or Muhammad, but in the name of Jesus Christ. Our country was founded by Christians and on Christian principles found in the Bible. The hypocritical response from the administration that this program is too religious is no excuse to keep this program from the eyes and ears of the citizens. Mr. Shake Snyder has that opportunity to review the DVD and the script. Before consideration of the full council, I would encourage other council members to do the same. Thank you.
Okay, the issue here tonight, Ms. Goppo has submitted a program for Channel 21, which is a parish channel. It has been reviewed by administration and has been turned down for to be put on the channel. And according to the programming policies by the Office of Technology, Programming Policy for Government Access Channel 21 on 21, one of the procedures here is that a person that has been turned down may request an appeal by the council. And we haven't gone through any of this, so we really don't know the exact proper procedures. So my directions to Ms. Goppo was to bring it to strategic planning, and we would vote on sending it to the council to rule on the appeal, which is, from what I gather, is a proper thing to do. And then the council would decide whether the appeal is valid or not, and they should be allowed to put the program on or not. With that, before we get to that, Mr. Hughes, Parish President, you would like to speak on this?
3 minutes?
You can have as long as you like.
No,
I'm not going to say that because knowing your
propensity to be long-winded at times. Good evening, y'all. I appreciate the opportunity to respond to Ms. Goppo and the administration's point of view. There's 2 or 3 principles here. I guess this would be one time Ms. Goppo and I probably agree as far as founding fathers and what this nation was built upon in the Republic. However, this issue comes more to I think the core issue of what is the role of parish government. Is it to teach civics and to teach the founding fathers, no matter how much we believe in that? It was at the school system, and in our parish, where governing authority and administration does not have responsibility for education. I personally watched this video many weeks ago and turned it over to Mr. Sanj in the school system because, we're making time available for different agencies in the parish. And so it comes down to, in my mind, not so much being too religion. I'm not sure how we get too much Christianity back in America. Obviously, we need it from keeping the Sabbath day holy and all kinds of issues in our nation that we need to address now. But it's an issue of whose responsibility is it to teach civics and to teach government. And so it was my personal point of view as I watched this, is that to give it the school system, is that what I directed the staff to do, to Mr. Sanjay and them. And I think citizens who are interested in seeing these kind of programs on the government information channel need to go to, if it's dealing with law enforcement, it needs to go to the sheriff, and we make time available. It goes to the school system if it's of an educational nature. There's nothing in our charter that mandates parish government to be the educational institution for the citizens, even teaching good government. That is something that lies within the powers and authority of our school district. Now, in some states, county government is involved in law enforcement as well as in the educational process. But in our state, according to our state constitution as well as our parish charter, we have no authority to teach civics or government as much as we would like to. And so even though I agree with Ms. Goppel, it's a wonderful program, it needs to be obviously taught to our citizens. I think the responsibility for this lies with our school board and the educational decisions they make as far as curriculum within the school system. And I'm sure if she would take that to the school board, they'd be more than happy to at least entertain her request. So I just want to make that clear that Ronnie Hughes, I'm not sure how we could have too much Christianity in America today. Obviously, we need more of it. It's just a matter of whose responsibility is it to teach the principles of the Founding Fathers. So thank you very much.
Mr. McConnell.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Scheck-Snyder. When we were first discussing the whole idea of this Channel 21, it was my position then, and I stated it publicly at a meeting, and I still hold that position, that this Channel 21 be a government channel. And now this particular situation illustrates that point. We have somebody in the public who is presenting to us a program that they want aired on this channel, and now we're being put in a position where we have to decide whether or not we want to allow this particular program. I haven't seen the program. I'm sorry. It was not presented to me. But my position, what I stated way back then was, if we leave it the government channel, and on this channel we air meetings of the parish government, public meetings of public bodies, or we air publicly sponsored or publicly promoted events, then we'll never face this situation. We'll never face this problem. Whenever anybody asks to put something on Channel 21, the answer will always be the same. I'm sorry, no. The answer is no. This is a government channel, and that's what it is there for. I agree with Mr. Hughes. If this is an educational item, then discuss that with the educational authorities in this parish. But Channel 21, as it stands now, I believe, and what I support, is that it's going to be a government channel. And if we leave it like that and leave it with the public information on it, then we never have to face this situation. And the answer to everybody is no, we are not going to air any programming that is brought to us from the outside. And that's my position on it. It's always been my position, and I'm going to hang tough on that. Thank you.
Mr. Hillenbeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've seen this video. It's been some time now. I want to say maybe it was as much as 6 or 7 years ago, and it is an excellent video. And I think it's something that the public needs to see. Does it need to be seen on the public channel, the government access channel? No. I want to echo everything and agree completely with everything that Mr. McConnell stated. This is a government channel. This is for all the meetings, which, by the way, it's running now, I think, 24 hours a day. And if there's a break, it's not long, that you'll have some type of committee meeting coming up, some type of commission meeting, some type of board meeting, some type of council meeting. And unlike the past, it's every decision, every item that is being discussed, it's out there for the public to see. And I just feel uncomfortable if we start cherry picking and allowing this one to bring something and we're going to agree to put it on, and then we start turning down the next person that wants something that they feel would be good for the public to see as well. Then we're in between the old proverbial rock and a hard place. And I don't want to get into that position. I would encourage Ms. Coppelt maybe to maybe even seek some sponsorship and air that particular CD on Ascension, on Cox Cable, or on E-Tel, and because it is an excellent DVD or CD, and I think it's. I have no problem with anything that's stated in it. So, but again, I want I want the channel to remain a government channel only. Thank you.
Kent, what is the process on the appeal? It has to go to the full council. Legally,
and that's something that we haven't adopted. This is a policy that has been given to us by the administration. Ms. Betty Robert sent that to us May 30th, 2006 by email. And the policies and procedures of Ascension Parish Television, government channel, made up by the administration, has not been ratified by the council. There is a question of whether this is a proper way to do it, or whether the council has a final say-so in doing it. Everywhere I do know that it has at least been ratified by the council. It has not been done here yet. However, in this in this policy, it does have a stipulation that if a person is turned down, or if a program is turned down, you may appeal to
The full council.
the council. It says appeal to the governing body, the council. So, since we don't have a policy in place for appeal, it just says you appeal to the council. That's what we would have to do here, is decide how these appeals should be handled. And that's basically the task. Whether you want the program or not, I think is immaterial. What we're trying to decide right here is how to go about the appeals process in a fair and equitable manner. And because it is part of the policy, the only policy that we're following right now, I do want to let people know that it has been agreed by the administration and members of council that Mr. Ricky Babin will get a policy in place as far as a ruling whether one group of people or the other has to ratify it or not, whether the council has to ratify it before it's official. So as we are acting right now is that this is our programming policy, and that since the policy said it does grant a right to appeal,
It needs to go forward.
how do you wish to go about the appeal? That's my question, and I'll offer that to you guys for suggestions.
I think we need to go
Appeal
ahead.
by the council.
I think we need to go send it forward to the full council pending legal, whether Ricky comes up with a policy beforehand, or he reviews this policy here and gives that opinion at the next council meeting.
Anybody else?
Since we don't have anybody here from legal to give us that opinion right now.
Any other suggestions? Mr. Hillenbeck, I know you're thinking. How do you want to handle the appeal? Oh, I'm sorry, and I do have another speaker, Teresa Robert.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. Just like to state a couple of facts. Number one is I subscribe to cable and I pay this franchise fee. And I, as a member of the public, very much would like to see something other than government meetings on this channel. It's my understanding, as you gentlemen know, that I follow most of the council meetings, not only in recent years, but many years. But I don't think there's been a final decision made that it will not be anything but public meetings, which brings us to the fact that actually this public meeting is a lesson in history, which is also important, and I certainly appreciate it, and I certainly have a lot of the public that gets to follow things that are being considered here. I'd also like to say again, as you said, you have this parish policy, which has never been really adopted, but there's this argument of who truly makes this decision. Is it the parish president that runs this TV station, or is it the parish council? And while I can respect Mr. McConnell's decision as one parish councilman, I also have a parish councilman, Mr. Kent Shakesnider, and I think there are many constituents in his district that want more than that. So I would encourage you gentlemen to please send this to the council, and I hope you do get a legal opinion soon, because I know I'm tired of watching this issue year after year after year. Thank you.
I make a motion that we send it to the full council pending legal, and that's the only way we're going to be able to resolve it.
Have a motion to send to the full council for a ruling. There a second? No second. Because there is no second, the motion dies, and it will, as of now, will not go any further.
Okay, just one
Yes, sir.
last comment. Again, in some of the previous discussion about this issue, I think if you go to, I believe it's the Acadiana Channel in Lake Charles, I think there's been some lawsuits over there as far as content, what's going to be on the public channel. And, I guess I'm reluctant to say this, but in our history of Ascension Parish, it hadn't been that many years ago that we had organizations burning crosses in Ascension Parish. So if when you allow anything to come forward from the public, you cannot pick and choose, because if you start that, you're discriminating. It's either going to be all or it's going to be nothing. And at this point on the government channel, that's where I fall and that's where I feel most comfortable, because it doesn't put us in that position, nor does it put the parish at risk with litigation. So again, that's where I'm at. Thank you.
And again, I think there's room for wiggle here and discussion, and I think as soon as we get a ruling on this, we can move forward and make some decisions that, to put this behind us. And also feel that it's not too far apart from what most of the council members are talking about. As I look through the policies of the administration and proposed policies and purpose of intent that was put forward by some of the council members, that there is a number of things, depending on how far you want to go down, how far, exactly what you want to cover. We can stop, I assure everybody in Ascension Parish, we can stop short of cross-burning and show a government access and educational access channel in Ascension Parish, and not have cross-burning. It can be done. We always hear about, every time we talk about doing something for TV, the first thing we hear about is the cross-burning. And, quite frankly, I think cooler heads will prevail, and that we can put something up there with sufficient guidelines to prevent that. We have things that are in place that we can go to you can go as far as you want down the ladder of priorities and reach a point where you are servicing the public and education and parish programming that people would like to see, that will stop short of cross-burning. And I would hope that we would do what the people would like to see of Ascension Parish, and have guidelines for that, which we do have, and we can move forward.
Just, I'd like to respond to that. And if my memory serves me correct, the excuse me, the lawsuits in, I believe it's in the Acadianas, Lake Charles, that area. I think it was over this very issue. This particular organization, KKK, wanted to come air some of their programs on the Acadiana channel, and they were told no. And because they had previously allowed anyone and everyone, then they could not deny these people. And so that's the situation I'm trying to avoid.
Exactly, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. Me and you agree wholeheartedly, Mr. Hillingsbeck. We're both trying to avoid that. And if you put policies in place that protect against that, that will happen, and we can move forward on it. People can see what they would like to see. That is why the priorities are. And you show certain priorities on down the line, and as government time exists, you can show other programming. And it can be regulated to whatever extent you wish it to be regulated, which it is right now. We're saying no right now. So, any other discussion? Okay, on new business, we have, yes, I wanted to bring up for a new business we have on the parish agenda, the Economic Development Fund discussion, and I think it's coming up. Ms. Suzanne, is it coming up on the next council, on the July meeting?
Could you give me any information on this? I don't have anything on economic development.
No, and that's what
it's coming to the council.
Yes, it is.
I think it needs to come to strategic.
I think that's premature. And if you're talking about an economic development fund, I think it needs to go to the finance committee, of course.
And that's what we're here to discuss. And so we want to see what route that we would like to have, because it has been discussed as something that either was needed or not needed or whatever. And so we wanted to put that out there and see what is the wishes of the councilors, what direction we want to head in that.
Well,
that area.
for my part,
obviously, from what we saw from Tommy Kurtz, he's recommended also an economic development fund so that they can have it there.
Well,
disposal.
My knowledge, Mr. Chairman, of the Economic Development Fund was that this was first discussed when we were having meetings with Mr. Charles Landry, when we were talking about the impact fee, the traffic impact fees that we were considering to impose on all the new development, and that's when that idea first came up, and it just came up as an idea, but I'm kind of like Todd. It just came up. It's never been fleshed out. We have never talked about it and how such a thing would be used. And we do have a procedure that we put things through committee to give everybody the opportunity to find out as much possible. I'd like to see this. If it's on the agenda for July the 6th, and I apologize, I won't be here for either one of them anyway, but I would think the better place to start with something like this would be at the Finance Committee meeting of July the 13th, Suzanne?
Kent.
Right.
Kent.
It's been recommended.
And Mr. McConnell, you're right. This got brought up way back when we was looking at economic development with Charles Landry. But when we formed the corporation, that was a 3-year deal. The funding was going to be for 3 years, and then the corporation was going to take it from there and fund it themselves. Am I not right?
Well,
that's how it was set up.
And also, when this came up during the, and I don't want to rain on this because I mean I don't want to shoot something down before it's even had a chance to come up. But
I think we just need to
there,
get more information.
There was concern of economic development that if we put in these impact fees, that would have a negative effect on economic development. And so the feeling was, well, if we have some sort of an economic development fund, we can negate the bad effects of this traffic impact fee to be able to use that to encourage development and so forth. I don't know about that, and the impact fees did not pass. So do we still need the fund, and how would it be done? Yeah, I think we definitely need to talk about it at a Finance Committee meeting.
And that's what we wanted to. We want to bring this up for discussion.
Oh, here come Ronnie.
In fact,
I might better have clarified.
Ken, when we have that discussion, too, let them bring maybe a breakout of how they're spending the funds that we've already budgeted and appropriated. Do you remember that dollar amount? Was it $325,000?
It was $325 for 3 years, and that was how it was set. That was it.
It was like $1 million.
Then they were going to take over from them. They could self-fund their corporation from then, and that was going to be the end of it.
And I'm not taking a position either for or against it, but I'd just like to see, well, what are you spending the money now?
I don't know why this is coming up now, like Martin said, and why all of a sudden we need a funding right away emergency. I think we need to take this easy and let's look at it a little bit closer.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes,
I could
just a second.
help.
This is not an emergency. This is something that we wanted to bring out, and we wanted to establish a method of going about doing this. And so this is what, we wanted to have. Since it originated in strategic planning,
I guess if
one
it's
of the
going to be
things
easy,
on the-
why is it on the council meeting already? Why you want to?
Suzanne's telling me the agenda's not even made yet.
But he's wanting to put it on the council meeting at the next meeting. That's kind of quick.
And that's why we're discussing it here. Yes, sir, Mr. Hughes.
It ties into the impact fee, which will be brought back up, obviously, and as we try to, get 8 people to support this improvement for our transportation in the parish. Just 2 or 3 things that all of you need to be reminded of, so we don't grandstand on these issues. But obviously, it would be irresponsible on my part, on all the council's part, if we continue to allow growth and development like our parish has been seeing without an adequate plan in place to support infrastructure and to develop infrastructure. And so this was sent to each member of the council on May 27th, I think, by Mr. Charles Landry. It was brought to my attention recently that several members of the council didn't read that or didn't see it. And some members of the council have expressed to Mr. Landry that they may have considered the impact fee in a different light if this had been in place already. Now, as I'm listening to you discuss this, it seems like you're kind of putting together this economic development fund with the Economic Development Corporation, and that's not the case. If we put an impact fee in, the Economic Development Corporation wanted to see a place for us to offset some fees on targeted businesses that we're trying to attract to our parish. And so this was one mechanism that had been used, and I encourage you to read on different issues around the nation. I've spent all afternoon studying these issues. The City of Oakland is doing some things in this regard. You will receive from us real soon a copy of all the impact fee counties and municipalities in the United States of America. And there was a comment in the paper Saturday, a week ago, by one member of the Transportation Committee that impact fees kill economic development. And I've asked Mr. Kirst and his corporation to give me the name of one municipality or one county that this is true. Now, since Thursday, a week ago, I still not haven't received one from anyone. I'd ask each member of the council to do that. But this issue ties into, if the impact fee is passed later, then the Economic Development Fund would be there to help offset some fees on targeted businesses. And this is what the Economic Development Corporation has asked for. This is what progressive communities across the nation are doing who have impact fees. And there's thousands of them. Okay? So, for example, the City of Oakland, so you can put this in perspective, one of their target markets of businesses they're trying to bring downtown is retail. So in their impact fee, they've excluded retail from paying it. They have a mechanism in place to offset that so they can bring into their community the type of businesses they're trying to attract that they feel they need for their community to sustain itself. And keep in mind the big picture of all this, guys, is to develop a sustainable community. And right now I submit to you that Ascension Parish is not a sustainable community with the revenue stream that we have in place, with the growth and development that's taking place, with an infrastructure system that's 2 or 3 decades behind the times. It would be irresponsible for me, I think it would be irresponsible for members of the governing authority to continue to allow growth and development like we have without a plan in place to adequately address infrastructure needs, especially drainage and highways. Now, having said that, we'll have a special meeting probably. We probably need to have one. Either I'll call it or 4 council members can call it so that we can address this whole issue of infrastructure. Now, if you remember back in St. Tammany Parish 2 years ago, remember in our parish 2 years ago, people talking about moratoriums. St. Tammany placed building restrictions in 14 areas of their parish. And they negotiated an agreement with the home builders in that area to get a transportation impact fee in place and a drainage impact fee in place. Now, we seem to have adequate monies on the drainage side. Obviously, on the transportation side, we have significant and real needs of additional revenue to meet those needs. And so this whole issue of infrastructure development is one that's not going to go away. We have the legal department been working on this for over 2 months, studying Supreme Court cases where we can impose restricted growth in certain areas. We held it back until we see what happens with this issue of impact fees and other tools to help us finance infrastructure and growth. And so I just ask you, as you talk about this, it's definitely not ready to go to the whole council. But when we plan a special meeting or else we put on the agenda for a future council meeting, this needs to be on there with the agenda item of a transportation impact fee again first, and we have some confidence that we'll get support on that. Now, if we don't, obviously it becomes a moot issue. And so this has been talked about since May 27th. If you go back and check emails from Mr. Charles Landry at Jones Walker, you'll see he sent to you, each of you, as well as myself and the Economic Development Corporation Board, a copy of what he and Mr. Kirst had talked about in relationship to offsetting impact fees on targeted businesses, and there were 7 businesses listed there, or types of industry classes that we wanted to attract to Ascension Parish. And so if you'll go into a thorough study of this whole issue and look at it globally, you'll see that a lot of communities are using this tool as a means to still attract the type of businesses they want to, but still help mitigate the impact on infrastructure in ways that have been upheld by the Supreme Court. So I wanted to clarify that so you don't confuse the Economic Development Corporation and it's $350,000 a year the administration is committed to that corporation. Still has to be budgeted annually, Todd. And it's not 325, it's actually 350, which is the same amount that's been put there for a number of years. It just wasn't really being used for economic development. Now they are truly using it. They've set up a separate entity within the corporation where they can receive donated dollars for nonprofits that they can put in with the public dollars that is coming in, and is very hopeful that within the 3 years that revenue stream will be more than the revenue stream that parish government is putting into it. And they're also making some progress with other entities within the parish, going back to what we talked about over 2 years ago. All the government entities, from the educational systems to law enforcement, municipalities, benefit with economic development and new business coming in. Some government entities benefit more than we do, particularly the state, who gets 4 cents of sales tax. And so they're talking to these entities now who have indicated to them that they may be interested in helping fund this economic development corporation as well. So it just doesn't all rest on parish government, that those entities who receive benefit from economic development would also pay to help receive that benefit to offset the cost there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Fontenot, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Shexnana. I came here tonight, gentlemen, to listen to the drainage ordinance because, as you all know, we're all concerned about that. I didn't think we were going to open this can of worms tonight, but since it is open, I guess I need to speak on it. Yes, we've been hearing a lot from certain council members that they wanted an economic development fund, or they really were for economic development. We did work very hard to put a corporation together. We funded it with $345,000 for 3 years. It was my understanding that they would work toward funding themselves from that point on. I also understood that if they wanted to give incentives, that they would develop a fund either through grants or other things for that type of incentive. I'm hoping that tonight it's not this council trying to say we're going to take tax money from general funds or other funds to create such a fund, to give incentives to certain businesses, while we require the other businesses in the parish, the mom and pops and the other businesses, the banks and other such businesses, to come forth and have to pay the brunt of an impact fee. I went Thursday morning with one of the board members from the Economic Development to a summit at the Shaw Building in Baton Rouge at the Manship Theater. And they had 4 good speakers there about economic development. And I just happened to have my notes because I grabbed the pad in my car to take notes tonight on the drainage ordinance. And so I'm going back over my notes here, and it says, one of the things that we were told is create a business-friendly environment. Do you guys really believe that an impact fee is creating a business-friendly environment? Are you asking small businesses to come to this parish to bring jobs, to bring the services that people that have come with the rooftops to pay to come? Are you asking them to come to this? If you come to Ascension Parish, hey, you can come. We welcome you with open arms, but you're going to pay to come. Then we're going to take our tax dollars that you and the rest of these audiences are putting in when we buy groceries and goods, and you're going to take some of that money and you're going to set it aside for certain individuals or certain businesses. We've got to come away from discriminating. We know that the industry has incentives. The state provides them some incentives to come here. But we have got to start protecting the ordinary people in a parish, the ordinary people that are out there trying to think of an idea that they can come up with to own their own business, whether it's a flower shop, whether it's a pet store. No matter what it is, these people are trying to get independent and own their own business and take pride in themselves, and then you're going to come tax them to bring you taxes? That doesn't make any sense to me. One of the other things I wrote down here was, don't give away the farm with incentives. That was another thing that came out of this meeting that I wrote down. We also just heard that there might be a possible moratorium. You guys remember that in 2004, I was one that supported a moratorium. A moratorium to me is a timeout period to fix what's wrong. We have many things other than just the roads that are wrong. We have drainage that's wrong. We have our schools that are getting overcrowded. There's all sorts of things that are happening in this parish that growth is causing. We don't want to stop development. We need developers here. We need the builders here. This is a community that is made up of all kinds of individuals. It's made up of churches, grocery stores, banks, doctors' offices. Everybody has a place here, and everybody has to be taken into consideration with whatever it is that we do, because we serve everybody. One of the things that a moratorium at the time that I wanted to do it was because I knew that we were going to hire a team of people to bring our codes up to date. And I felt like we had enough building lots out there that would allow, and it's very rude, guys. Please. Thank you. The business, the community out there, we have a lot of lots that have already been approved. We knew that at the time. And we didn't like the way certain development was going because of the infrastructure needs, not because we were anti-development, but because we knew we had some problems. So we hired somebody to fix some of these problems. Yet we went ahead and didn't put a 6 months moratorium there. It's been 2 years. We still do not have most of the things in place, where had we put a moratorium at that time, we could have said, okay, in 6 months' time, we're going to fix everything. We're going to go back to getting the developments going. We hadn't even done that. It's been 2 years, and we still don't have the codes up. So it's to come now and say we're going to put a moratorium on things. And one of the things, I was told that if we did put a moratorium, it was going to get vetoed. Now, all of a sudden, it's on the opposite foot. I sat here, I presented my statements for the impact fee based on all the information that I saw. Everything on my PowerPoint was documented. And yet I see up here politics being played as usual, because at the last minute it was offered an economic development fund at the last minute to try to sway the vote of one particular councilman. And I think it's wrong, and I think it is time that we start acting like statesmen and start doing what's right for this parish, and not just doing what is politically the wind of the day. Thank you.
Mr. McConnell.
I just wanted to say that the reason that I wasn't in favor of putting that thing on the agenda is because it hasn't been discussed. Speakers are coming up here, and they're jumping to conclusions, and I have no idea what those conclusions are. I don't know what an economic development fund is going to do, what it's going to consist of, where it's going to come from. I don't know that. We don't know that, and that is why I said it was more appropriate to put it on the economic development the Finance Committee agenda and presented by someone in economic development. If they want the fund, let them come and do that. I'm not opposed to it, and I'm certainly not reading something into it that is not there. And this conversation has gone so far afield from what it originally was that the whole thing can be confusing. By the way, Ms. Fund, I was listening to you. All I said was, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say something when she's finished. That's what I said. So if you felt that rude, I apologize to you. But we are jumping to conclusions on this. Let's get the Economic Development Corporation to make a formal presentation.
And I thought,
and Mr. Chairman, this is not a debate here. It's turning. Every time somebody says something, somebody's going to fill out another card and they're going to bring it up here.
We're going to.
Yeah.
No. This has got to end sometime, Mr. Chairman. Use your gavel if you must.
We're going to end this here. What we put this on the agenda for discussion is through the process that we're going to take care of. We're going to end it right here. It's the process that we were going to take care of, where we're going to go with this, because it was an issue that came up. It was something that was discussed, and it was something that we had wished that a number of us had wished to go on the agenda, and I wanted to make sure that we went the proper route. That's all.
Mr. Chair.
And so that's what we were trying to discuss. Obviously, the proper route is to take it to the Finance Committee, at which time everybody will have an opportunity to discuss it, whatever else you want to do with it. That will be fine. We will have information at that time. We will have whatever else that you want, input and everything else. So that would be the proper time to, Mr. Hillingsbeck.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to go back to some of what Ms. Fontenot said. No, I've got to stay.
I'm sorry,
Mr. Chairman, she's accused certain members of politics, and I'd just like to answer to that.
I said we're going to end it right there. We're going to end it. We can discuss it or discuss it at that point. Anything that you wish to say about it, it will be brought up at the Finance Committee. And at that time, we can discuss it there. The sole purpose was to find out the proper form to put this through. That's all. Okay. Any other new business? Old business? And
Well, I back up one new business.
Yes.
I got one. We need to put in place an updated ordinance on the billboards. It's been brought to my attention. I've got some constituents in my area that's very concerned with the I call them double-decker billboards on Highway 42. That it's getting out of hand. If we don't put something in place, we're going to have triple-decker billboards, I guess. So I would like for us to have legal look at that, and let's look at updating the ordinance over that. In fact, I've gone as far as I've asked Suzanne to get a copy of the East Baton Rouge billboard ordinance that was recently passed. Pardon?
The lighted billboards too, really.
Yeah. Well,
actually, it's one of the things that's addressed by the by one of the tasks that we had down there, and it's billboards are addressed in that. We can take it in.
Yeah, I just think we need to just take a look at it and look at updating
it. We can take it and have them revisit that and address that particular issue if you would like. We can ask Charles to go on that, but I think the research has already been done. It just hadn't been a priority to send up here yet,
right,
because of the other things that we've had. We have a motion, Mr. Lambert, second by Mr. Hillingsbeck, to take a look at the billboard ordinance, which I think comes under the guise of some of the other tasks that we've granted. Any opposition to the motion?
Thank you.
Mrs. On, please send that on to Charles as to address that. Send us something on suggestions on billboards in certain places. Okay, old business.
I got two items.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hillingsbeck.
As you remember, we started some months back with a burn ordinance, and we need to get moving on that particular item. And I want to point out I've had several questions from the public. I want to clarify as far as what I see as the problem. This is not about the citizens out there that maybe burn their leaves or burn their limbs, because we don't have that service where the parish picks that up. This is about stopping and preventing the garbage that is being burned on people's properties, burning of plastics, burning of tires, that kind of thing, especially in the subdivisions where it's a big problem because of the smoke drift and the odors and what have you. It's very unhealthy, and so we just need to get moving on that, and I'd like that maybe put back on the agenda for the next meeting, next strategic planning meeting.
I'm all for it as part of the, we should have parish-wide garbage and pick up some of this trash in the parish, but we seem to not want to go in that direction.
Well, we have several private companies that's available for pickup. I mean, I'm in favor of the free enterprise system working there. What I'm not in favor of is citizens continuing to be allowed to burn plastics and trash. And again, I'm not talking about leaves and limbs and that kind of thing. I'm talking about trash. Thank you.
Ms. Suzanne, would you please put that on the agenda for the next one? I don't know who we would get to task to come up with some recommendations on that. I think that we'll get Ricky to us something.
Does that not fall under our health department, Mr. Matassa, burning and garbage and stuff?
I mean, I've had some discussions with Mr. Matassa, and I think there's a state ordinance in place, but we need a parish ordinance.
Would you please ask Mr. Matassa to give us a report on the burn ordinance of the parish and see what we can get, put him on the next meeting. See where we can go from there. And any other old business?
The junk car. We need to bring a junk car ordinance, and we need to finish that up as well. Well, it's just
We're waiting. We're waiting to get back from.
Can we put that on the agenda, then we'll get a report?
Yes, please put it on the agenda.
Thank you.
And ask Mr. Throckmorton to send that to us in some reasonable manner. Any other old business? The other old business I have is that I wanted to report on, we had a special meeting before the last council meeting in Donaldsonville concerning the TV guidelines. And I had mentioned this earlier. It was basically discussed and talked about trying to decide whether the council or the administration had a final say-so in that. And I was just going to make a report on that. Because I made a report on that, I have a speaker on that. Yes. Maxine Crump.
Greetings. And I'd also like to greet those who are watching the meeting tonight, because many of them watch local programming on ETEL and Cox, because they'd like to see local programming. And as one who has, for 7 years, done programming in the parish, with no problems of concerns from any unusual entities requesting to air programs other than the community-type programs. Also, in the last year and a half, I have appealed to the committee for the opportunity to add community programs to the parish channel. Where the programs are now, they're aired through the cable companies, through FiberEdge and through Cox. They both granted Ascension on the Move the privilege to air programs through their channels. Cox did not have any room left, and they squeezed me in on Thursday nights at 10 o'clock, because that's the only time they had available, because they were willing to do what they could to have the community programs brought, because the public is letting them know that they want them. ETEL is delighted to have the community programs, that they air them daily. In the morning, they're getting ready to move to an afternoon. They're planning to rearrange their programs because they want the programs. However, both of the cable companies would be very happy to have the programs aired on the Ascension 21, because it would still come through their cable companies. I've also been told that, I've heard said on the council that we have local programs already being handled by the cable companies. They're not really. If you're talking about the programs that ETEL does, they're very small programs, and ETEL is not planning to cover all of the community needs for the program. And the programs that Ascension on the Move brings to the community are sponsored by businesses, and to the tune of about 200 businesses have made it possible for the community to see local programs. An Ascension Citizen newspaper poll showed that 87% of those polled wanted to see local programs along with the government access channel. And I'm just really baffled by the question that council members, it was really very odd to sit and hear council members and the administration trying to decide which program is aired on a government channel that all the cable subscribers pay a fee to the government for those channels. And just because it's called a government access channel does not dictate that only government programs need to be on it. I don't hear Metro 21 mentioned when I hear government access channel. Metro 21 has a TV programmer who programs their channel. It kind of doesn't make sense that you guys should have the burden of deciding a program. It kind of doesn't make sense that a parish president should have to spend part of his time deciding which program goes on a channel. It seems like guidelines should come from you guys, but not which program. And so in the programs that I've produced in the 7 years and participated in producing, not once has there been a problem of impropriety in the programming. And Metro 21 finds my program fits the public format very well and the government access format very well. It is true that you should have guidelines for your programs. And I think once your guidelines are in place, even the commercial programs have guidelines in place. And Channel 9 that I worked for before, there are guidelines to their programs. So guidelines protect what airs on your program. So maybe Acadiana did not have the good guidelines in place, and that was maybe a mistake. Programs that I have coming up that are ready to be aired are programs on your only bicentennial city. And also a program that I have coming up is an appreciation day that was held for Roland Doucet that had thousands of people that filled an arena all day to appreciate a man who for his honor of South Louisiana music, a program that I'd like to air. The kickoff of the football season, the 4th of July, the Fête d'Odo, that we have one of the nicest fireworks in anywhere, and the Jambalaya Festival. Those are programs that I have coming up. And tonight I brought the East Ascension 2006 graduation. Parents called me and asked to have this graduation brought to TV. And so they produced this program. And wouldn't it be nice if after this council meeting, the EA graduation is shown? There certainly can be nothing wrong with any of the programs that I've named and with having local programs brought and having a decision to have people present specific requests to be selected as those who can present programs to the parish. The parish doesn't open up to let everybody, but 87% of people say they want programs, local programs, along with government programs, which is the way they do it in Baton Rouge. And they've been doing it quite successfully for some time, and I'm honored to be a part of that program. But my preference would be to have local programs aired on Ascension 21, and certainly that can be done here. It's what the public wants. They pay fees for it, and it should happen. And you guys can work that out. I thank you.
Thank you. Next person on programming, Catherine Goppel.
Good evening again, council members. The Citizens Board to oversee Channel 21 was passed on February 16th with 9 in favor and 1 objection. The Citizens Advisory Board was vetoed by the parish president. 4 council members changed their vote, with 5 members of the council supporting the veto on March 2, 2006. In the absence of the board, this is what has happened. Programming guidelines were presented to the committee for consideration and discussion in mid-April by Councilwoman Fontenot. Copies, which had already received the approval of legal counsel, were distributed to the administration, including the technology department. Prior to the special meeting Councilman Shakespeare just mentioned, last month we were going to discuss the guidelines, the guidelines for this channel. In the meantime, the administration developed and adopted their own guidelines, apart from any oversight of the council. This is a total disrespect for the process. I came here tonight to the committee meeting out of respect for the process that was put in by the parish president and Mr. Shakespeare. You are awaiting a legal opinion, and I do hope that comes soon. There was some discussion at the meeting last time on the cost of equipment, and I wanted to clear that up. Figures were stated by one councilman that were almost 5 times less than the actual dollars spent. I'd like the public to know that the invoice I have in my hand shows that $316,000 were spent in this courthouse alone for audiovisual equipment. Other costs outside the courthouse have yet to be determined. We talk about franchise fees tonight, and these aren't tax dollars, gentlemen. They're paid by cable customers with a portion given by Cox and ETEL to the parish government. In 2004, $220,000 was placed in the parish general fund. In 2005, $572,400 were placed in the general fund. In the first quarter of 2006, we've had $156,721.08. And if this continues, it will translate into $627,000, $53,000 over what was received last year, and $77,000 over what was budgeted in 2006. The parish administration was directed by the council to budget 40% of these fees by this committee, and the council agreed, in the 2006 budget. That's about $228,960. This was to manage and develop programming on Channel 21. Mr. Osborne has indicated that these franchise fees would be placed in his budget under acquisitions of vehicle and equipment. He has informed me he has spent only about 5% of these budgeted monies in the first 5 months of this year. What kind of programming will be aired on Channel 21? There is more than adequate funds available with franchise fees to develop educational programming and coverage of public and community events and attractions, not to mention programming that can be obtained at no cost to the parish. I would encourage the council to return to citizens who pay these franchise fees expanded programming with more variety and local flavor. There is certainly more than sufficient funds to develop programming and ample space on the channel to schedule these programs for their broadcasting. Thank you.
Okay. I had one, Jerry Passman. We had passed over public speaker card. Jerry, I want to make sure you had an opportunity. I apologize for missing it.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Jerry Passman. I live at 38268 East Lakeview. That's in Seven Oaks off of Highway 73. I guess I'm a carpetbagger. I've only lived in the parish for about 10 years, but I wanted to talk to you guys about something. You keep talking about economic development, but I build houses, and I do a lot to drive the economy, me and guys like me. Thursday, I think it was the Wednesday or Thursday that you voted on impact fees. 93 men and women worked on my jobs. Friday at 1 o'clock, I had my superintendent count. 47 people were working on my job, which is pretty good for Friday after payday. But anyway, I sold a house Sunday. I'm just doing some brief math in my head. The parish will collect over $12,000 in sales tax on materials that I buy on that job. So it's not like we're not out there creating economic, and I just question the wisdom of putting impact fees on a driving industry, one that's doing very well and succeeding, and then creating an economic development fund and paying the impact fees for everybody except the customers of the one industry that seems to be doing well, in the parish. So that's just all I had to say. I mean, we do create a direct impact on this parish, and when I sat through the auditor's report of the financial situation of the parish, and they talk about property taxes going up and sales tax going up, I mean, that's the people that are buying from me. They're the ones who are paying the higher property taxes and going to Walmart and furniture stores and everything and filling up these houses. So we have a definite impact. And I just want to question, why do y'all want to slow us down so much? But then again, you're trying to bring in other businesses for jobs. I just question the wisdom of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any other comment? Move to adjourn. Move to adjourn. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.